Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. How's it going? It is August 26th. Did I get that right? Is that the right month? I think it is. Welcome to TheoryCraft episode 28. It is, as promised, Undead Day. We had to take one off because we had no replays, but we definitely have a bunch of replays now, in fact. Had a lot of replays from more than just one Undead player, even. It's pretty cool. Thank you, by the way, to MTP Huel for the Prime for 11 months. 1 month off a year. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. How's it going? How's it going? How's it going? How you guys doing? You doing all right? You doing all right? Yeah, we had a lot of games this week. A lot of games. I casted a lot this week, and it will continue tomorrow and the day after that. Not the day after that, but the day after that. So we got a lot of matches. I've had a lot of Warcraft in and on my brain. Last week was a community replay review, which was fun. Wasn't feeling too great over that episode, but we got through it. I hope you guys learned something. I appreciate the submissions, and as always, you guys can submit replays whenever you want. If you want to submit them right now, I'll take a look at them, and we'll do them for September's episode, so make sure to get your replays in. You don't have to submit them right before. You don't have to submit them, super early. You can submit them late if you want as well, but get them in, and the earlier they're in, the higher on the priority list of replays that I'll watch they will be, because when people submit them very early, I'm like, okay, they've been waiting for this, so I gotta cover them. So that's last week and next month's episode. Next week is gonna be Human Day, so if you're a human player and you're like, God damn it, I hate undeads, don't worry. Next week you guys get something too, and then it'll be Orc Day, and then it'll be Community Replay again the second week of September, Orc Day, Night Elf Day, or maybe Undead Day. We'll figure it out. Don't worry. Next week will be human, though. Next week will be human. I don't normally do this before we go into an episode, but I will today, because we're going to be covering a very recent tournament in today's episode. Very recent. It, in fact, happened this weekend. So, spoiler alert, okay? If you guys have not seen War3 Champions, you have not seen the grand finals, you haven't seen all the matches, you want to go back and watch them on YouTube, you don't know the results yet, this is it. This is your spoiler alert, because we're not watching the games in order, and we're not going to watch them at 1x speed. We're going to be slowing things down, pausing. We're going to go back and forth, all right? So if you haven't seen and you want to go watch with commentary and all that, and you don't want to be spoiled, this might not be the episode for you quite yet, but you can catch it on YouTube, well, tomorrow, or right now if you're watching it on YouTube. So that's it. That's your spoiler alert, okay? That's your spoiler alert, because we're not watching the games in order or anything like that, so, with that being said, how was band practice? It was good. Band practice was actually very good. The one we had, I think it was 2 days ago, was very productive, which was nice. I'm looking very, one sec. Let me see if I can do something about this. 1 sec. You guys just hold on. You guys just hold on a minute, all right? I got things to do. Yeah, band practice was good. Ooh. Ooh. Maybe like this. Oh. There we go. Band practice was good. It was real good. Got a lot done. We got a bunch of gigs coming up in September. We don't have any gigs in August, but we got a whole bunch in September. We got like 10 or something like that, assuming everything doesn't get closed again, which it might. But that's neither here nor there, because at least we'll still have Warcraft. We can still stream. We can still watch Warcraft. We can still play Warcraft. Did I just Tinder? Yeah, I was just swiping really quick, of course. All right, so that's the spoiler alert out of the way. That's next week's episode out of the way. So now we'll go to our notes. So get out your notepads. I was going to pull up a notepad and show you guys a physical notepad, but I don't know where mine is. So nevertheless, here we go. So today's episode title is, there's kind of two titles, but I'm not going to put the whole thing because it ends up being very, very long. But the short version of the title would be a second look at the War3 Champions Grand Finals. And then the other part of the title would be, parentheses, playing Death Knight versus CORSAIR Headhunters. Right? Because it is Undead Day, and the Grand Finals already gave you guys a spoiler alert. It was Happy versus Focus, and Happy was able to defeat Focus 3-2 in a very nice 5-map series. But of course it's Undead Day, so we're not going to be talking about Focus too much today. We're going to be talking about how Happy managed to do it. Ultimate Viking with the 5 months, thank you so much. Can we hear your music? Yeah, you can hear my music. Not right now, but you can hear my music. It's been played on the stream before. Yeah, so Happy was able to win. I just wanted to quickly touch on the history between these two players because I was looking up their stats, and I brought it up when we were casting because, of course, we casted this grand final. I brought it up during that. Shows over the answers Coil Nova. Yeah, of course. But let's just check this out. Here's the stats between Happy and Focus in like the last 5 years. Here they are. They go very back and forth. So the first time they met was 2016 for Gara Cup, which they played a bunch. Look at all these Gara Cups. Look at all these. They met. These are all grand final, or not all grand finals, but a lot of grand finals. Every best of 5 you see would be a grand final, right? They met a whole bunch. This is even a best of 7. What the hell? So look how back and forth they are. Look at this. Win. See, they just went 3 in a row, then 3 in a row. It's crazy. 3 in a row and then 2 in a row. Super back and forth the entire time. Not the first time, obviously, because before both these players retired, they had played a bunch, previous, like 2010 and earlier, of course. But Focus isn't that old school. Neither is Happy, so this has definitely been the most that they've played. And look at this. So many games they played together. And then, obviously, the last time they had met before this tournament was at DreamHack Anaheim, where Focus won. But before that, Happy won too. Before that, Focus won. They're back and forth, and they weren't even back and forth when Happy wasn't as dominant as he is. Like, Happy was still very, very good at all these tournaments, and still Focus manages to take series off of him. And then, of course, this Grand Finals that we're going to be covering today. Yes, I know they've met more than this. Yes, I realize that. But this is when Happy just came out of retirement, right around here. That's what I'm talking about. This tournament is very significant because this is the first tournament they've played since Farseer Headhunters was meta. All these other tournaments, this tournament, let's take a look at it. Blade Master? Yeah, Blade Master. See? Like, this is the first big tournament that they've met when Farseer Headhunters was meta. So this is the first time in history that they've really done this, and we get to find out who's better in this meta. So it's kind of interesting, and they're very, very even. And just looking at their stats, if you're wondering actually what their total stats, so I'm not lying to you guys, 23-21 in matches, 23-21 since 2016. 74-68 in maps since 2016. Now that's pretty even. That's probably the most even record anyone has against Happy. Actually, let's take a look. Because I'm interested now. Let's look up like Lin, for instance, versus Happy. Lin might be favored. Probably every other orc. Like Fly, probably not favored. Not that Focus is favored, but very, very close. Okay, Lin is favored, but they've barely played. So that's what's unique about Focus, is that they've played so much. Look, 2-3. 6 and 7. So they're still very, very even, but they've barely played at all. Let's look up Fly now. Because this is really, Focus is the only Asian orc that we really get to see Happy be challenged by. Because I do think that it's Happy's weakest matchup. Statistically, it's his weakest matchup. And statistically, the Asian orcs are the best orc players as well. So it's an important statistic. Yeah, and even against Fly, like, they've barely played. Look, 5 matches. And this, again, is since 2016. Not earlier than that. We don't have those stats on, at least on... I'd have to go to Wikipedia to find those. They're not on War 3 info. 2016 is when these stats are from. Of course. Of course they played more than this. Of course. So see, there's something very, very unique about the Happy Focus matchup. And someone says in the chat, yeah, and Focus is one of the earlier adapters of Farseer Headhunters. Yeah, he's one of the first guys to actually do it almost always. He really likes this strat. He really does it a whole ton. All right, so that's the stats. And of course, as I do so often when we cover Happy replays, there is something to be said about sometimes analyzing Happy games, and Happy manages to win, as he's going to in 3 or 4 of these replays. And, we say at least on this stream and probably other streams as well, just Happy things where it's like, okay, no one else in the world would have won that fight. No one else in the world would have found that opening and won the game. everyone else in the world would have just lost this game, which is true. Happy has extremely good mechanics. He has very, very good micro, and he does win in positions that other undeads are just not capable of winning in. That is a disclaimer that should be made before analyzing Happy games. But with that being said, he is the best undead player probably of all time, so we have to sort of analyze his games. That's just how these things work. And also, if we're going to analyze 120, he does those sort of things as well. 120's micro is insane, right? So that's a disclaimer. There's going to be positions in these replays where I'm like, okay, this is why Happy's doing this. This is how he got to this position. And then they get into a fight, and you're just like, oh, but even though Happy's done all these great things to get into this position, if I were fighting Focus here, I would just lose the game, which is fair to say. But, you know, it's also worth saying that Focus's micro is also one of the best of all time. So, you know, takes good micro to beat good micro, I suppose. But that's the Happy disclaimer. As I think we've said in every single one of these episodes where we've analyzed Happy, that's just how these things go. Okay. Any questions so far? We covered the stats. It's important to focus on being happy, of course. Yeah, someone was saying, I think it was Flo. Yeah, it was Flo in the chat when the timer was on. Start the game already. Oh, you're gonna get timed out. I think it was Flo before the stream started. He was like, just be happy, forehead. And I was like, yeah, I'm really happy that I'm not an undead player, because it's so difficult to actually learn undead, because you only have 120 and happy, and it's both like, oh, they just won the fight somehow because they have crazy micro. Whereas me as an orc player, I can watch like 10 different orc players, and they all play different. Focus plays different from Lin, who plays different from Fly, Hitman, Linguagua. They all play differently. You can watch Grubby for a different style if you want. You can watch Kiwikaki if you wanted to. You can watch Spiral. He plays differently. And I can learn different things from all these players, whereas if I'm an undead player, yeah, I could watch the Crypt Lord guys and learn from them, but if I want to learn how to play DK Standard, I can really only watch Happy and sometimes 120. And Happy just does crazy stuff all the time. Permission to time people out today? You have all the permission in the world to time people out. Within reason. Hello, Dropkick. How's it going? All right. Yeah, so that's just how undead players seem to learn. And I think there's something else to be said about undead, where it's like, this is like a thought experiment, right? If you were to think, what race? This is a question for you guys. What race do you think, if somebody, let's say me or you or someone else, a pro player, if they went into a cave and meditated on Warcraft for a month, hypothetically, didn't play the game at all, just went into a cave and thought about the game, what race do you think would benefit the most from that? And what race do you think would benefit the least from that? Of course, the best way to improve would be just to play the game, but hypothetically speaking, if you had a month to just think about the game, no playing, no ladder, just to think about what race would benefit the most, what race would benefit the least. What do you guys think? There's not a right or wrong answer. Not a right or wrong answer, but I do think Elf the most, Orc the least. I think Grubby would be very good at that. Like, there would be some benefit. It wouldn't be overall beneficial. There would be a slight benefit to it. Orc would benefit the most. Human the most. Undead the least. Random the most. Fair. Grubby does meditation. He's the best player in the world. Yeah. I don't know what would benefit the most, but I could definitely say I think Undead would benefit the least, in my opinion. Because Undead is really, at face value, as somebody who's a terrible Undead player, I really truly am a terrible Undead player. It's my worst race. I get very confused analyzing Undead replays at times. I had to watch, for instance, these replays over like 10 times each, right, to try to get something out of them. And there might be times that I'm absolutely wrong when analyzing these replays. That's totally fair, which is why you guys are here to help me hold my hand through these replays. But, you know, Undead, it's so simple on the surface because the army compositions, the timings are always the same, the heroes are always the same. The strong thing about Undead, or what the thing that you have to practice with undead to improve at it, I should say, is where you are on the map at different times. When do you decide to creep aggressively, passively? When do you decide to take fights? Where on the map do you take fights? What are you scouting for at certain times? What are you trying to avoid at certain timings? It's all about map movement and when and where and why you're at places on the map. That's what it's all about. Whereas races like human, if you were to go into a cave and meditate, you might be thinking about, oh, what's the perfect army composition against X, against Y? How many rifles do I want to get with my 70 supply push against Night Elf? You could think about those things, and you could improve on them, right? How many breakers do I want when I transition against Undead when they go for Banshees? That's something you could think about. For Night Elf, you could be thinking about creep routes to, sort of allow yourself to get a quick expansion up against Orc. You could be thinking about these things and improving, whereas Undead, you really have to play the game and just play fully reactionary based on what you're scouting for, based on what your opponent is doing. There's no, true flowchart way of playing that always guarantees, puts you ahead. You kind of have to always be reacting and moving around the map and adjusting on the fly, which is why it's such a difficult race. And, behind this, what are you doing? Well, you're kind of just building fiends and statues, right? You're kind of just building fiends and statues, which, if I wanted to make fun of undead players, I would say, look how easy the race is. They just build fiends and statues. But really, I think that's what makes undead possibly the hardest race, is because what am I supposed to do as somebody with terrible mechanics, but I can maybe think about the game decently? I can go into a cave and meditate and maybe come out ahead. What am I supposed to do to actually improve at undead? Well, I don't know. Because I'm bad. Because I just think, oh, I can go into a game and build fiends and statues and then I must win. But that's not true. That's not as simple as it is. So we're going to be talking a lot today. Of course, the first replay we cover today, we'll talk about the specifics of exactly what the build order Happy's doing is. We'll talk about all the timings. We'll talk about when and why he gets certain units, how he builds his base. We'll figure out all those things in the first replay. But then after the first replay, it's mostly going to be about why is he moving to this place on the map at this specific timing, which can get a little bit confusing, which is why I had to watch these replays so many times, and I'm still probably entirely wrong about a lot of these things. But that's in replay number 2, 3, and 4. We'll be focusing a lot on his map movement specifically. But replay 1 will make sure that if you guys aren't entirely sure, maybe you don't even know what a Ted Fiends build order is. Maybe you don't know how many fiends you're supposed to build before you go tier 3, stuff like that. We're going to cover all that in the first replay. So if you're unsure of actually just the basic build order stuff, which is totally fine, I wasn't either until I watched these replays. We'll figure all that out in the first replay, but then we might ignore some of those details a little later on and focus more on the more difficult to grasp things, I should say. Does that make sense? Are there any questions? Just make stats and fiends, lol. Are there any points of disagreement with what I've said, maybe? Does anyone have any counterpoints? Ghouls are very hard to play, for sure. Mass worms, absolutely beautiful. You cannot leave your opponent, always got to counter what they're doing as an undead. Yeah, for sure. And by not leave your opponent, I assume you mean, you either have to be pressuring them or you have to have a scout on them, which I would definitely agree with. You shouldn't always be fighting them, but you should definitely always be scouting them. Absolutely, which Happy makes sure to do. And when he doesn't make sure to do that, he loses. Why is it called TED Fiends? Because TED is a Chinese undead player. He was the first undead to ever win a World Cyber Games. He did that in 2012. He came up with this build order. So Ted is a player that came up with the build. And the build is Fast Death Knight, so you go Alter Ziggurat, and then you go for your Crypt afterwards, you get 3 ghouls, and then you go late Fiends, and you're also able to scout. Whereas back in the day, what people were doing, a build that I call Philbot Fiends, because it was invented by a guy named Philbot. I'll write these out for you. So we have TED Fiends, and then we have Philbot Fiends. These are 2 styles. Back in the day, people were doing the Philbot Fiends. There we go. Mirrored camera. They're doing Philbot Fiends, you see? And what Philbot Fiends was, you'd have a really late hero, but you'd have 2 Fiends out by the time your hero comes out, so you can sort of power creep. But that was weak because you could be out-crept. Your opponent could harass you before your hero's out. So what TED started doing was he would still go for the Fiends, but he'd just get them a little bit earlier. And then he would get his Death Knight earlier, and he would actually be able to scout. Another weakness to Philbot Fiends is you couldn't scout. So they're two different build orders, and they were both invented by the players that they're named after. Philbot might have not invented Philbot Fiends, but that's just what we've colloquially come to call it. Is that right? I think that's right. Whereas TED, I'm pretty sure he actually did come up with that build order. And that's the build that Happy's going to be doing. And if you don't know what it is, you'll be able to see. That's why it's called TED. I built 5 ghouls undead because my macro is terrible. Well, you know, 5 ghouls not too bad. 5 ghouls not too bad. Philbot, is he Brazilian? Where's Philbot from? Is he Australian? Philbot Warcraft 3. Yeah, he's Australian. He's Australian. Any other questions? Any other questions? So we're going to watch 4 replays today, not in order. The first 3 we're going to watch are the 3 games that Happy won in this best of 5. Autumn Leaves, which was, I think, objectively the best game, also the game where both players played the cleanest. So there's going to be some mistakes throughout this series, definitely, because we're literally watching only games from one series. So there's no series where both players are just going to play perfectly the whole time, or where Happy's just going to play perfectly every game. And of course, both players lost games. They were making mistakes. So there's going to be mistakes, and we'll try to point those out as we see them, or as we think we see them. But the first replay is going to be Autumn Leaves, where I think both players played the best. Then Tidehunters, Happy also won that. Then Turtle Rock, Happy also won that. Then the last replay we'll watch today will be Amazonia, which is a game where Happy lost, and we'll try to figure out why exactly we think he lost. We won't watch Northern Isles, which is another game where Happy lost, because I think Happy kind of played bad. And the mistakes that Happy made were so obvious. He was getting like creepjacked. He lost a Fiend when he had his DK within coil range. He like just sacrificed his Slaughterhouse at one point. He lost an Acolyte while he was teching. Spoiler, I said spoiler alert at the start of the stream for like 5 minutes. Yeah, so he played kind of bad on Northern Isles, so we're just not going to watch that replay. Not that it would be a waste of time, but, you know, 5 replays is quite a bit. And, you know, my intros are already 40 minutes long, so... yeah, so that's why we're not going to watch Northern Isles. But you guys absolutely can go watch Northern Isles. These replays are out. These replays are out. Did I miss any questions? How does the new map pool play into this matchup? Like Undead vs. Orc, like Autumn Leaves, and Tidehunters. We'll actually talk about that because we're going to see both Autumn Leaves and Tidehunters. So we'll talk a lot about the map dynamic on these maps. Especially on Tidehunters, we'll talk about that. Yeah, Happy won 3-2. Happy won 3-2. And we're going to watch those 3 games that he won. Oh, you just watched them today? Okay. I think I covered everything. I think that's all right. Can we jump into game 1? And like I said, I'll try to, as much as I can, cover exactly what Happy's macro side of things is. When does he build these Fiends? What are the order of things? When does he go tier 3? You know, all these things. I'll try to cover these in as much detail as I can in the first game, and then in the other games we'll talk more about the map movement, etc., the higher level stuff. Okay? So here we go into game 1. We're going to watch these from Happy's perspective. Should we have War 3 Booster on? I'll leave it up to you guys. Do you want War 3 Booster on, even though we're only watching it from Happy's POV? What do you guys think? War 3 Booster or no War 3 Booster? What do you think? What's more enjoyable? Because obviously, even though we're watching it from Happy's point of view, we'll still have focuses, heroes, and resources and stuff. No booster? That's 1 for no booster. Philbot Fiends save Orcas is just fast Fiends. War 3 Booster, please. No booster is fine. That's 2-2 so far. Yeah, it's Graveyard Crypt first. Boost me? Booster? Okay, I think booster seems to be. And we can change it as we go. Yeah, we can change it as we go. Boost me to the moon. Booster, please. Booster. Yes, booster. Okay, good. We're boosting. We're boosting it up. Okay, here is replay number 1, Autumn Leaves, Happy against Focus. And we're going to have some rally points because we're going to watch it from Happy's point of view. Because I want you guys to pay attention to what Happy's scouting for throughout. You know, when is he sending skeletons? Where is he sending them to? Those sorts of things. And we'll be able to keep track of focuses like heroes and his resources. It'll be up here, but mostly what we're going to be looking at is all Happy stuff. So this is Ted Fiends. He goes for Altar, Ziggurat, and then he builds a Crypt. He builds a 6th Acolyte to scout with in most cases. This Acolyte's going to build his shop. He's going to build it right here. Note the resources when this Acolyte comes out, he's going to have just a little bit over the amount for the shop. He's going to put the shop down. And this Acolyte, in most cases, can scout. But what it can also do is kill the critter close by so that Happy can get skeletons with his Death Knight. So we're going to see him, he's going to kill the stag. And this allows him to get skeletons early on. And now you can either scout with this Acolyte, which Happy will do throughout the series, or in this case, he's actually going to creep with it just to speed up the creeping a little bit. Graveyard comes when you have enough gold for it. And see, now we have this fast Death Knight with a Scout Acolyte, but we're also going into Fiends. So this is the most optimized sort of Fiend build, the most common build nowadays. Now, here's a question for you guys. Here's a question for you undead players. So the assumption, of course, Focus is going to play Farseer Headhunters. Happy knows Focus is going to play Farseer Headhunters. There's always there's a chance that he plays Blade Master, but knowing Focus, he always plays Farseer Headhunters nowadays. So we know that's going to be happening. So with that information that we have, knowing our opponent will play Farseer Headhunters, when do we build a Nerubian Tower? And do we build a Nerubian Tower, chat? That's a question for you guys. When do you guys think? When do you guys think he's going to build, if at all, a Nerubian Tower? Or is he going to skip it? And this is what Happy will tech with. He'll go for 3 ghouls, and then he'll tech with the single Ziggurat. After tech, okay. After tier 2 tech, before tech, I say. Good, skip it. I love this. I love that you guys all are saying different things. I think it's beautiful. Oh, Dropkick, my man. After his first creep camp, messes up timing, he doesn't do it, skip it. Before tech, I say. So we have lots of different opinions. Dropkick is absolutely correct. Dropkick is 100% correct. Happy is going to throughout, and I'll try to show this as much as I can. And this is important because I don't know, those of you that saw my message in the gym Discord yesterday, I was asking, I don't care what level you are, I just want to see, can you send me replays where you lose to Farseer Headhunters as undead players? I asked a bunch of people, and I got some replays, and a lot of the time people are losing to Harass, they're losing to, like, a Farseer runs in and kills Acolytes, you know, they get pressured by their Death Knight. So the Nerubian Tower is actually quite important. Hard to say. He's good enough to pop it once he sees Farseer close, but if not, he'll play greedy. We'd all lose doing this, for sure. Happy actually does not do anything greedy with the Nerubian at all. He's not greedy. He's actually perfect. He's the perfect calculation of safe. There's no scouting. He's creeping with Acolyte, so he's wrong. Interesting, Deuce. Interesting. Yeah, so Happy throughout this series is going to build the Nerubian to perfectly line up with the earliest the Farseer could possibly be harassing him. Okay, does that make sense? So the Farseer on Autumn Leaves could be in his base by about 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Give or take, around that. If the Farseer came out of the altar and ran straight across the map, about 2 minutes and 45 seconds. And when Happy scouts, if he does it all with this Acolyte, he's going to check, is the Farseer creeping? In which case, he'll, of course, build the Nerubian later. He'll build it after the tech because he'll see, oh, the Farseer's creeping a camp, therefore he's most likely going to creep level 2, therefore I can build the Nerubian after my tech. In this case, since he doesn't see the Farseer, right, because he's creeping with the Acolyte that Deuce pointed out, He's going to be building the Nerubian with the assumption the Farseer may run straight cross map and harass him. So he wants this Nerubian to be up, it doesn't have to be perfect, but around 2 minutes 45 seconds. We can see the timer up here, because that's when the Farseer could literally be in his base by if it ran straight cross map. And Happy always does this. He builds the Nerubian based on the information he gains from the scout or from the lack of the scout. Because he wants to creep with it in this case, he has to build the Nerubian a little bit safer. Make sense? And there's the Nerubian. Oh, what a perfect pause timing, actually. I didn't plan that, but... And see, this comes up... How long does the Nerubian take to upgrade? I should have looked that up. Nerubian Tower Warcraft... Is it 30 seconds? Just for clarity's sake. It takes 30 seconds to upgrade. What do you know? The Farseer could be in your base by 2 minutes and 45 seconds. This will be done at 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Makes 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Now, if this Acolyte had scouted Focus... instead of creeping, and saw, oh look, he's going to be creeping this green camp, then he could have in fact built it after the tech, and he would have teched 1 lumber return earlier. And this is what Happy always does with the Nerubian against Orc. Always. So in this case, he's doing it very safely because he wants to creep with the Acolyte. So Deuce was right and short. Yes, of course you're going to be right, Deuce. Get out of here. Of course you're going to be right. Kidding me? Deuce, believe me, I'm going to say nothing you don't already know today. He's going to creep with the Acolyte. And then after he creeps with the Acolyte, just to speed it up a little bit, you learned something already? Oh, that's good, Deuce. That's good. Now he's going to go scout because, of course, we don't 100% know. Like, if this is us on ladder, we're not playing against Focus here. This is just us on ladder. We don't know if we're against a Blade Master or a Farseer. We don't know if we're up against a Tauren Chieftain. We could be up against a Fire Lord. So we should be scouting. It doesn't matter if we scout a little bit later, though. At this stage, we know that regardless of what the hero choice of Focus is, that he is at least creeping. Because if he wasn't creeping, we know, 2 minutes, 45 seconds, he would be in our base already, or he'd be at this creep camp. How much does the Acolyte help? I didn't actually calculate that. It'd be maybe 4 or 5 seconds. Maybe less than that. It'd be a few seconds. Be a few seconds. But yeah, it's very timing dependent. That's why he uses the Acolyte, because he doesn't want the Farseer to come. We'll touch it more on this later. He doesn't want the Farseer to come and harass him. He wants to finish this as quickly as possible, because what Happy really wants to get is level 2. He really wants level 2 for Aura. We're going to talk about that a ton today, so don't worry. But the Acolyte is going across the map because we still need to know what our opponent's doing. If it's a Farseer and he's creeping, what is he creeping? Right? And tech. So he got Nerubian before tech, and then he's going to tech, and now once he has 215 gold, he'll build his first Fiend. After he builds his first Fiend, he'll build his second Ziggurat. These are the details I said I would make sure to point out to you guys in the first replay, so this is what he's going to do. He's not going to build his second Zig before this first Fiend. He wants to get the first Fiend out ASAP, and then he'll build his second Ziggurat. I like this little adjustment with the creeping from Happy. He actually, a lot of the time you would actually see undeads just run straight over here and then summon skeletons after killing one of these creeps. But Happy actually has his graveyard timed in such a way that he has a corpse available, so he just runs by here in transition and gets corpses from where his graveyard is placed and then creeps that. So this is actually making Happy even a little bit faster, which is cool. It's just a slight optimization that Happy does, which is kind of cool. Whoop. He's a little sloppy with the DK movement, but he gets it eventually and pulls it at the same time. And we can notice that first Fiend comes out, and then he'll get the Ziggurat very, very soon. And there's the Ziggurat. There's level 2. And the Acolyte is just scouting for where Focus is. He hasn't actually seen him yet. He now knows that Focus did not creep this, but he did choose to creep this. So really the only places Focus can be would either be right here or right here. And we already saw this earlier. We know Focus has crept this, right? Happy gets a second rod. And I like this creep route from Happy. I think this is kind of cool. Because if left to his own devices, Happy is happy to just creep level 3 here. There's a little bit of a dynamic that Rima Dima mentioned during the cast of this tournament, which I thought was kind of cool. And I think it's actually right. Within, yeah, it is. Yeah, I think it's right. So level 1 versus level 1, Farseer has the advantage against Death Knight. But the reason you might think that and think, okay, then why isn't the Farseer just immediately harassing the Death Knight every single game, which Focus doesn't do? And that is what some undead players or some orc players do. They immediately harass the undead with level 1 Farseer against level 1 DK, because Farseer, in my opinion, is stronger than Death Knight at level 1. But the thing is, the reason why Happy focused so much on creeping, he uses 2 coils, he uses the Accolade, he superpower creeps that first camp, is so that if the Farseer decides to immediately harass, Happy is very, very close to level 2. And then all he has to do is squeak out one more creep camp, one tiny creep camp, maybe a couple of wolf kills, on pretty much every map this is true, and he'll be level 2, then he'll be at a full level advantage over the Farseer, which is why Focus decides to not do this at all throughout the series, because he respects Happy enough to know that Happy's probably going to be able to eke out that 40 extra experience to get the level advantage. So that's why we don't see Focus immediately harassing, which in your games maybe Orc players do that all the time, and I don't think it's a bad idea for the Orc players to be doing that. It's just not what Focus chose to do against Happy, therefore Happy's allowed to creep level 2. So Orc is favored at level 1. At level 2, Undead is favored. Why is Undead favored against Farseer Headhunters? Because this is when the Undead can start actually chasing down Headhunters and killing them. So if the Orc decides to be aggressive on you when you're both level 2, they have Chain Lightning and level 1 Wolves, they don't have level 2 Wolves yet. When they decide to be aggressive on you, you can actually use your Skeletons and your First Fiend to start chasing down Headhunters, and a lot of the time if you have decent mana, you can actually secure at least a Headhunter kill, which is why the Undead will be favored. Not like, obviously not 20 minutes into the game, this wouldn't be true, but in the early game, level 2 versus level 2, because of Aura. And then level 3, hey Danger, how's it going? Good to see you, man. And then level 3 versus level 3, this might be debatable. I don't think the first 2 are debatable, but level 3 versus level 3, I think the Farseer is favored. Depending on the actual timing of it. I think if the Farseer gets level 3 before the Dark Ranger's out, they're definitely heavily favored. But if you're both level 3 and the Dark Ranger comes out before the Orc's second hero's out, the Undead's pretty happy with that. But I do think Farseer overall on level 3 is favored. Right? Undead is favored if DK HP is healthy. That's probably a great way to put it, Deuce. Yeah, probably. Yeah, if you have good mana and health and your DK is level 3, then the Undead's probably favored. But it's pretty close, both having level 3. Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it, though. Yeah. So if Happy manages to get to level 3, still having a lot of coils and still having a lot of DK HP, then he'll be favored. If not, then Focus is going to be favored here. So that's sort of how this dynamic works, which is why Happy isn't trying to be overly aggressive on level 1. That's why Focus isn't being overly aggressive on level 1 or level 2. That's sort of why it ends up being both players creep level 3 in this case. And I really like this creep route from Happy. This doesn't actually get him level 3, but it gets him potentially a greater mana, and he's very close to level 3. I'm just going to check the chat really quick to make sure I didn't miss any questions or anything. Don't think I did. If I missed your question, you can just retype it. I think it's a 1 mana ceiling. Note, he's still scouting around for the creep of Focus. I believe he saw him here. Yeah, he did. And Focus's creep route was this camp, and then this camp, and then this green, and then this green. Focus actually does kind of a cool creep route this game. I think both players do a really good job with their early creep routes on Autumn Leaves. This was the 5th map in the series, so they're both very well aware of how each other are playing. All right, and just to touch again on the build order side of things, Happy's going to be going for, he will get 3 Fiends by the time his tier 2 is done. And look at those Headhunter pose right now. Yeah, pausing on some units is always a little bit weird. Focus is going to do a really nice play here that is going to make it a little bit tricky. Notice Happy is just still scouting, so he sees, okay, he's creeping level 3 with Farseer Headhunters, as am I. So Happy knows everything he needs to know pretty much right now. Worth mentioning, you need to lose this Acolyte eventually, because if we look at the supply right now, and these again are the details I said I'd point out in the first replay, but not later on. I'm just going to assume everybody's up to speed with these details later on. When Happy builds one more Fiend, he's going to be at 26 out of 30. 26 out of 30. Notice he's not building a third Ziggurat. He's going to build that after his tier 2 is done. So if he's at 26 out of 30, he can't actually build a second hero. So eventually, Happy actually needs to lose this Acolyte. He wants to get as much value as he can out of it. He killed the critter with it earlier. He crept the camp with it, and now he's getting a full scout as much as he can. But he wants to lose this Acolyte before tier 2 finishes. Right? Because or else he's going to be supply blocked against the second hero, or he can't build 3 Fiends. Just worth noting in passing. But he's going to do as much with it as he can. He's not just going to lose it for no reason. He's going to get as much out of it as he can. So this creep rout's decent, but it keeps you a little ways away from level 3, which is why it's not perfect, but I think it's still a very good creep route. And now the Farseer comes in. I think this is a cool play from Focus. So he crept this, and then he ran to the shop, got staff, and ran like this way around, I think, and comes to harass. This is why, like, you might think, like, Happy's so good he can cut corners and not get an Nerubian, which I've actually heard some undead players say, like, oh, you know, if I was better, I wouldn't have to get a Nerubian. Just like some human players in the past would be like, oh, if I was better, I don't need to get an Arcane Tower, which some human players actually do nowadays, but nevertheless. Get a Nerubian, because these sort of things happen, and because Happy has a Nerubian here, he's actually not going to lose anything. Whereas if he didn't, I think even Happy loses 2 Acolytes to this harass, with the Chain Lightning and the level 2 Wolves. I think even he loses 2 Acolytes. So get the Nerubian. Get the Nerubian. So Happy's just going to come back. He's forced to come back and defend here. If I wanted to use cool chess lingo, I'd say this is a forced move. Anywhere we can download these replays, they should be on warcraft3.info. If not, you can message me in the Back to Warcraft Discord, and I'll send you all these replays. And he's going to staff away without killing any Acolytes. And you know what? He's actually going to give Happy a Wolf, which is a mistake from Focus. But and see, notice Happy sacrifices the Acolyte because he has to, because he's tier 2. And now, tier 2 hits. There's a little bit of variety as to the order of things, but I think Happy does... I think the order that Happy does his macro decisions this game is the most common order. Does that make sense? So, tier 2 hits. He's going to get his Slaughterhouse and then his 3rd Ziggurat. He's going to go to the Tavern and pick up a Dark Ranger. And then after all those things, he's going to wait to go tier 3. And he's actually going to build his first statue and his 4th Fiend. And then he's going to go tier 3. So not before his first statue and his 4th Fiend is queued up and he's got his Dark Ranger is he going to go tier 3. So it's a little bit of a delayed tier 3. A little bit. But not too much. It's about a minute later. About a minute later, maybe 45 seconds later. All right. So this is, and he's going to get the Zig very soon. Of course, you don't need to get the Zig right away. But there it is. Then he's going to go to the Tavern and get a Dark Ranger. And what do you know? He creepjacks Focus. Now, there's a little bit of a grace period here. So, it's worth noting that when the Orc plays Farseer Headhunters and you play Ted Fiends, does anybody know in the chat, maybe Deuce if you're still here, maybe you know, how do the techs line up, the tier 2 techs? If I play Ted Fiends and you play Farseer Headhunters, which is a 2-burrow tech, where are our techs? Are they even? Is the Orc ahead? Is the Undead ahead? Is the Undead super behind? What are the techs sort of at generally? Undead slightly ahead? Yeah, by like... I think it's by like 5 seconds. It's very, very slight. Very slight. What does Ted Fiends mean? By Ted Fiends, I just mean the build order that Happy's doing in this game. Yeah, the techs are pretty even, and obviously there's some room for error, human error, because both players sometimes forget, so they end up being pretty even. But slightly faster for the undead. Very slightly, though. Very slightly. Yeah, but why is it called Ted? Because Ted's the player that came up with the build order. Hey, Cool Breeze. And because of this, the second hero, whether it be, there's two options for a second hero for the Orc, of course. They can either go Tauren Chieftain or Shadowhunter. There's reasons for both. Focus is going to go Shadowhunter throughout this series. So it takes 55 seconds. 55 seconds. Let me write this down. 55 seconds to build a second hero. Of course, and the Undead's tech is about 5 seconds earlier. So that means about 60 seconds. So you have about a 1 minute grace period. Because, of course, us as the Undead, we're going for a Dark Ranger, which immediately comes out at Tier 2 out of the tavern. Assuming we're waiting by the tavern. You know, sometimes it takes a little bit of walking distance. So let's say, given 10 seconds to get to the tavern, whatever, maybe 5 seconds of messing around, we have about 45 seconds before their second hero is out of their altar when we hit Tier 2. What's up, Amp? How you doing? When we hit Tier 2, we have about a 45-second grace period where we have a lot of map control because we have a second hero with Dark Ranger, and they don't have a second hero yet. And that's just because we're going for a tavern hero, and they're going for an altar hero. And of course, once their second hero comes out, they still have to walk to their army as well. So that's something worth counting. So maybe it even ends up evening out to being the full 55 seconds. And I call this a grace period because if they go Shadowhunter, once they're Shadowhunters with their army, we're kind of in a position where we can't fight too easily because they have Hex. So this is the time we have to play with at Tier 2 before the Orc, when we have map control as the Undead, and before the Orc has map control again. Because once their Shadowhunter comes out, of course, with Hex, they're going to, again, control the map. So Happy's going to be very aggressive for this short amount of time and try to get as much value, and this is consistent throughout the series, and get as much value as he can until he knows that Shadowhunter's out. And then he's going to back off. Worth noting, I'm saying Shadowhunter because Focus goes Shadowhunter second all 5 games in this series. But if they go Tauren Chieftain second, you can kind of be even more aggressive because Tauren Chieftain second on level 1, not that scary. Not that scary. So I do think, although I didn't have the replays to study of this, I think if Focus were to have gone Tauren Chieftain second instead of Shadowhunter second, Happy would have been even more aggressive. He wouldn't have been aggressive for 50 seconds then backed away. He probably would have continued to pressure and slow down the Tauren Chieftain's creeping as much as he could until there's like a Raider out. Which is why we see Focus going for Shadowhunter, not Tauren Chieftain. Wait, Happy waits for Tier 2 to be finished before building the third Zig. It looks like you got the gold to build it. Let me answer that after. Let me read that and answer that after. So yeah, that's the reason why Focus is going for Shadowhunter and not Tauren Chieftain, which you might see again, just like the scouting for a Blade Master thing. If you're playing a ladder game and you're trying to emulate what Happy does, you might run into situations where your opponent's going like Alchemist second or Tauren Chieftain second. In those cases, as long as your Death Knight's level 3, of course, you can be more aggressive than Happy chooses to be. But if they're going Shadowhunter, and you should try to assume they're going Shadowhunter and scout for it, then you should back off after this grace period. I hope that makes sense. And there's downsides to Shadowhunter as well. But the upside to Shadowhunter is that you don't completely lose map control around this stage in the game. Yeah, so what's this question? Why Happy waits for Tier 2 to be finished before building the third Zig? It looks like he has the gold to build it and still get the third hero before the Slaughterhouse. Oh, I see. There's no reason for the third Zig, it's habit. Well, I think let's go back. Let's go back and check what his gold was. Let's restart it and see when his Tier 2 finishes what's his gold. To see. So we're going to 5 minutes. We're going to wait for the Tier 2 to be done. So Tier 2 is about to be done. Happy's got 500 gold. Yeah, so he actually doesn't have the gold for the Zig, because if he built the Zig right now, unless he sold some items, he wouldn't be able to get the Dark Ranger right away, and he wouldn't be able to get the Slaughterhouse at the same time as the Dark Ranger. If we just look at the gold he has right now. Thanks, Wall Street guy. So yes, because the Dark Ranger ended up being a bit later, we, in this case, with hindsight, could say, yes, he could have got that third Zig, because it's going to take him time to get to the tavern, and in that time he could have built the Zig. But in the majority of cases, we're going to be able to get to that tavern and get Dark Ranger right away at tier 2, but we also want to get our Slaughterhouse right away, which is why Happy doesn't build that third Zig. I think. Might be wrong. Pretty sure. Pretty sure. No worries, Milky. No worries. Okay, so let's get back to where we were. So, Dark Ranger, 50-second-ish grace period. Let's just take a look. Where's the Shadowhunter at right now? About halfway done. So halfway of 55 seconds is like 27 seconds. Then he's got to walk across. He's got to buy items and walk across the map. It's going to be like 35 seconds until the Shadowhunter could be literally right here. And Happy's got a really good internal clock about these sorts of things because he's extremely good. Yeah, you don't necessarily need it anyway. Yeah, because you're still... I mean, you could get your 4th Fiend earlier, but we see he doesn't even have the gold to get the 4th Fiend. He's got to wait another 14 seconds to get that Fiend either way, so it's pretty well optimized. Why do you get Dark Ranger second? Dark Ranger might actually just be better than Lich against this strat. I was thinking about that when I was watching these replays. I think it might just actually be better than Lich. Not only is it good for the reasons that I just talked about, it gives you this grace period where you actually have map control as the undead, whereas if you're waiting for your Lich, then you don't ever really have map control. But I think Dark Ranger is just better. And we're going to see Dark Ranger, we're going to see why it's better. And we'll slowly reveal the reasons why it's better. But the first main reason, the first thing we'll touch on right now, the reason why the Dark Ranger is good at this stage is because we can get it right away out of the tavern, and now we can actually contest this creep camp. Yeah, this was game 5, yeah. And Happy gets the last hit with Coil level 2, he gets a Mana Stone. And yes, maybe this is a mistake that we'd see a lot of undeads make right now. Because look at his headhunters. We saw them. We saw that there was a couple of low headhunters. I think he's got troll regen, which is why they've healed up. But we saw like red HP headhunters. And those look real juicy, right? Those look like, if I'm an undead player, I'm thinking, yeah, let's go, man. Let's go. I just got a Mana Stone. I got lots of mana. I got Wand of Mana Stealing. I got my Dark Ranger. I'm about to have a statue. Let's go push. Let's go kill some headhunters. Notice, yes, he maybe could have got those headhunters, but Happy's aware there's a Shadowhunter on the way. So he's going to back away. He's going to back away. Yeah, like, honestly, Deuce, I think Dark Ranger is just better. Oh, right, Happy accidentally fat-fingered the Mana Stone this game, right? I forgot about that. I forgot about that. So that's a mistake. Happy meant to use the Wand of Mana Stealing. He accidentally used the Mana Stone. Like I said, not a perfect series from either player. So that's a big mistake, obviously, but these things happen. So, still waiting. Note, Happy could afford to tech right now. He's a little shy on the lumber, of course. He could very soon, but he's not going to until the 4th Fiend and the first statue's underway. Yeah, but notice he used the Wand of Mana Stealing right after the Mana Stone. I think he accidentally did it. Yeah, it would have just been objectively better to use the Mana Stone here, or not to use the Wand of Mana Stealing and then save the Mana Stone, because if he needed a coil, which he needed one coil there, Wand of Mana Stealing would have been more than enough. Yeah, it was a misclick. It was.
Our forces are under
So
attack.
now this is game 5. Right? So Happy sort of knows what Focus has been doing through the series. He knows that Focus hasn't been harassing on level 1. He knows Focus has been playing Farseer Headhunters. And he also knows that Focus has been playing Shadowhunter. So Happy's aware of this. But if we look at the earlier games in this series, Happy was much more active to make sure to scout what the second hero was. To see, is it Shadowhunter or is it Tauren Chieftain? But in this case, because this is game 5 in a 5-game series, Happy knows it's going to be Shadowhunter. Focus isn't going to change too much up, at least unit comp-wise at this stage.
Our forces are under attack. Summoning is complete.
But he still, of course, he needs to send skeletons across because he wants to confirm nevertheless, but he also wants to make sure he's not getting creep-jacked right now. So look at the scouting. Look at the scouting. And note where he puts his scout. So let's guess. Like, if we're up against an orc player, regardless of their starting hero, and we know their second hero, or regardless of their second hero, we know their second hero has come out, where are they going to go creep when their hero just comes out? Because we already scouted earlier, this camp, this camp, this camp, this camp was taken. So we know they're going to be creeping either this right away, which this skeleton's going to see, or they're going to be creeping one of these three. 1, 2, 3, which this skeleton is going to see. So no matter what, Happy here is going to confirm not only where the Shadowhunter's creeping, but in fact that it is a Shadowhunter. Very good scouting from Happy. Alright. This is the first statue, this is the fourth fiend, and now we'll just wait for the tech to be underway.
Our forces are under attack.
Should be any second. Boop, 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 boop. There it is. What's that, Baycam? And the scouts aren't always going to be perfect, but the intent is what matters, right? Because he's scouting for a reason, right? Or else he would prefer to just creep with these skeletons. He's scouting for a reason, so regardless of not the scout ends up being perfect and giving him the information he needed, the fact that he's scouting is all we need to know, right? So, this is a period in the game when we know the Shadowhunter's out. We know we're waiting for our tier 3. So, in theory, we could probably lose a fight here, but our first statue... Lich is better at making this Farseer go away, though. Only side Dark Knight... Yeah, definitely, definitely. Or else we see Happy... Like, we saw that on Northern Isles, right, Deuce? Where, or did he? Yeah, it was AZ where he went Lich second. On Northern Isles, where Happy got creepjacked at his expansion because he was busy chasing away the Farseer, throwing like 6 coils on him, and he got creepjacked and lost like 2 fiends. Because he didn't have the Nova coil, he had to like chase with just coils. So this is a situation where you could argue it's a mistake for Happy. I'm not entirely sure to go for this camp. He thinks maybe... I imagine that Focus is creeping like this camp or this camp or this camp because his scout actually failed to see where the army was. But he's going for this, which is almost guaranteed in most situations to end up being a fight. So whether Happy wanted to actually fight here or he thought that Focus wasn't going to be here, I'm not sure. But you could argue at this stage that maybe Happy should be a little bit more passive than he's being right now. Did he see? Did he see where he saw with the skeleton? Other skeleton? Was it this skeleton? Saw the army? Saw him creeping this then. Okay, so he did see him. So he should be well aware that the next obvious creep camp would be to go from this expansion to the lab. So it seems like Happy wants to take a fight here. I don't know if it's the best timing to take a fight, but maybe it's all right. Why is the Orc with Hex not more aggressive? Well, you could argue for the same reason that the Farseer on level 1 isn't aggressive, because by the time you walk across the entire map, the Undead's already taken an entire camp. Like, by the time the Farseer comes out of the altar and runs across the map, this whole camp's already gone. By the time the Shadowhunter comes out of the altar and walks across the whole map, what do you know? Happy's already taken this whole camp. So you're just going to be a full camp behind, and then Happy's just going to back away and just creep passively while you're left with, like, okay, what do I creep? Sort of thing. I think would be the argument for that. So Happy, lots of the time, if Focus has a small amount of Raider, actually Undead could beat the Orc even if he has Hex at this point. Okay, yeah, so I think around the timing you're probably saying, Deuce, would be when the first statue comes out, you don't actually have to be that afraid as the Undead. As long as you have DK level 3, I would imagine. But when your first statue comes out, you can actually... Because Happy consistently seems to take fights at this stage, which seems counterintuitive before you have tier 3 and when you're waiting for tier 3. But I think, yeah, he's happy to fight before the orc hits like berserkers and he has his first statue. And the reason why Happy's not going to TP out immediately here, you might, like, a lot of undeads might panic and be like, oh my god, he's going to hex, he's about to kill a fiend, is one, because he's got decent mana on his Death Knight, and his statue just arrived, but two, because if he town portals out, he just gives up this entire camp, which he doesn't want to do. Of course. And this is going to be very obvious in Replay 2 on Tidehunters. He's going to take a very similar fight on Tidehunters for a very similar reason. And second statue's out. He gets his second statue. Note he's at 39 out of 40. And then he's going to get his 50 supply Ziggurat. While he's waiting for this 50 supply Ziggurat, he gets Burrow. This changes sometimes. Sometimes he'll get the Ziggurat earlier and go for a 5th Fiend before Burrow. But in this case, he's just going for Burrow at 4 Fiends and 2 statues. That's 39 supply. So Ensnare's gonna finish, and that's when the orc tends to win these fights, when Ensnare finishes. So Happy's definitely gonna lose a statue. You haven't gone through the series in order? Oh, I have. I casted these games live. But going through the series in order isn't exactly the most instructive way to do it. And he gets forced to TP out. Kills a Headhunter, loses a statue, almost loses a Dark Ranger, but it's Happy, so he doesn't. So eventually he has to TP out, but initially why he wasn't getting out of there is, one, he was a little bit stronger, and two, he didn't want to give up this camp. But there's another thing. The reason why he TP'd here is also kind of interesting. One, the Raider came in. Obviously, the Raider came in, he was about to lose more, right? But the reason why he didn't just do that earlier is actually this timing that Happy gets out. This is another timing when Happy needs to be passive. Because who can tell me why he should be passive right now at this stage in the game? 8 minutes and 37 seconds, or third dotted day. This is a very typical time there where undeads overextend. Very typical timing. Let's check out the barracks. Woo! Berserker upgrade. Just about to finish. Just about to finish. Very big power spike. First Kodo coming out. Torn Chieftain on the way out. So if Happy were to fight for another 10-15 seconds, not only will Berserker be active, the first Raider's here with Ensnare, but soon a TC with items and a Koda's about to join. Third dot, if the Orc straight techs, which is what Focus did all 5 games in this series, 2 Burrow tech initially, into immediate tier 3 at tier 2. 8 minutes and 30 seconds of the third dot a day is when Berserker form kicks in. Third dot a day. And we'll notice in this series, actually, which is kind of interesting, I don't know if Happy knows this, like, literally or just intuitively, but Happy almost always backs away at this timing and plays passive yet again. Similar to when he backed away earlier knowing the Shadowhunter would be out. Very often does he back away. Even if he's not forced to Town Portal, he'll go and play a bit more passive, knowing that Berserker's about to be up. And of course, Happy doesn't want to fight when Berserker's up for Focus, because Happy's still waiting for his tier 3. So Happy doesn't want to fight when Focus has tier 3 and he doesn't, right? But of course, in this situation, regardless of that being true, Happy still just needed to TP out of here. Even if it was, you know, even if Berserker wasn't about to be finished and the Coda wasn't on the way, Happy still needed... The Raider was about to kill all the statues, right? So... But still worth noting that it was an excellent TP for that exact reason. He, 1, needed to get out of there, and 2, it was the perfect TP, or the perfect timing to disengage. So 5th Fiend comes out, and this is just what his army ends up being, right? Now he's just going to pump Fiends and statues. Happy actually doesn't get Destroyers, which maybe is something you could argue against, but I don't think he gets Destroyers this whole series. Am I misremembering? I might be misremembering. He doesn't this game. He doesn't build Destroyers. He doesn't even get the upgrade in this game. So now Happy is just going to play very passive for the time being, because of course he knows that Focus is very strong, and he's waiting for his Lich with Orb. He's waiting for his... He does it at the very end? Okay. Definitely some games he did, for sure. We'll see. We'll be able to confirm or deny that. We will see, absolutely. So this is a very good timing for Happy to be passive. What's another thing Happy should be scouting for? Knowing that Focus just hit tier 3, because third dot is when Focus hits tier 3 with the build order, and he and every other orc in the world does with the immediate tier 3 tech. What's something else that we have to be scouting for right now? We, of course, have to be scouting to make sure we're not going to get creep jacked. Right? That's very important. That's what Happy does consistently. He always makes sure. In fact, when he goes down to creep this, I think, or he creeps another camp, he always has a skeleton, like, for instance, like, very far forward to make sure that he's not going to get creep jacked. Because if he did get creep jacked right now, he still wants to wait for his Lich. He doesn't want to fight yet. He wants to wait for the Lich with Orb. But yeah, you guys are all absolutely right. He wants to scout for a tiny Great Hall. Because there is, and in fact throughout this series, Focus was doing this, and we're going to see games where he does do this, goes for the immediate tiny Great Hall once his third hero is out, which would be coming up right around now. So he's going to be scouting for that tiny Great Hall. And he does this every game at this time. Every game. It's around the time when his Lich is about to pop, that's when he's going to be scouting for an expansion, a tiny Great Hall.
Our forces are under attack.
Yeah, Focus was very greedy at times, but that's why I chose this replay first, because this is actually an example of a game where Focus wasn't super greedy with that tiny, which I think was a mistake that actually cost Focus. And notice, look at this skeleton. He pulls this creep camp, he has a skeleton here. He's just making sure he's not getting creep jacked because he doesn't want to fight until the Lich is out. And in this case, it's actually going to work out pretty well for him. Doesn't see him, gonna run up and scout for that expansion. And what do you know? Sees the army. And this sort of a play from an orc player, like, no matter what skill level you are, you can probably intuit that this is for, like, the orc player's hitting your base like this for a reason. They're hitting your base because they're trying to get an expansion up. And in this game, Focus is actually going for a slow expansion, but this could have been a tiny as well. But yeah, knowing when the orc is pushing you like this, you're always going to be thinking, no matter, I think, what skill, even if you're like a 1000 MMR player, you're probably thinking, why is he pushing? You're not supposed to push an undead base. Why would he be doing that? Of course he's trying to do that because he's trying to get an expansion up. Or he's trying to get towers up in an expansion. So Happy scouts this expo. What does he do? His Lich comes out, he grabs Orb, he has a potion of mana, he had a potion of invulnerability. He's going to pull the boys, 2 of 3 of them, leave 1 at home. And he's going to go for a big timing push because Happy's very, very strong. This is about as strong as Happy's going to be until his heroes get super leveled up, and Focus is pretty weak because he's invested in these, and they've had no payoff yet. So Happy's going to hit a strong timing to deny this expansion. If this was a tiny Great Hall, which we'll see on Tidehunters later, or Turtle Rock later, Happy's going to do a very similar timing, only it's going to be even stronger, because 1, you can't cancel a tiny Great Hall, you cannot get the resources back, and 2, it costs almost double the resources, so it's a bigger investment for the orc. So this timing would only be made stronger if Focus went for a tiny as opposed to a slow expansion. But regardless, you still have to do something about this Expose the Undead. So Happy's going to pull the boys, get a mana pot, got his Lich with Orb, and he's going to go across the map. 50 supply. Just one note, by the way, the heroes are reversed. I actually just noticed that. It's a little bit annoying, but yeah, these are Happy's resources, and here's Happy's heroes. That's a bit annoying, but oh well. Why is he creeping? Well, of course, he's going to get Dark Ranger level 3, Death Knight level 4, and he's going to get skeletons off of this creep camp. So when you're going for a push with Dark Ranger, especially Dark Ranger level 3, it's not a bad idea at all to actually creep in transition. Like, say Happy was down here, and he wanted to push here, he most likely would have crept this green camp and this green camp before pushing, because that would have given him 8 skeletons. An F for mixing up the overlay. Yeah, rip. Yeah, so he would have had 8 skeletons, and even though his push would have been maybe 20-30 seconds later because he crept 2 camps, having 8 skeletons in your army is super strong, which we're going to see on Turtle Rock later. You guys might remember that game on Turtle Rock. So that's why Happy's creeping. Not only is he about to get 2 huge level ups, but also it's always a good idea before a timing with a high level Dark Ranger, soon to be level 3, to just creep a camp and transition to just have a bigger, stronger army. Does Happy research Burrow? Yes, he researched Burrow after his 4th Fiend while he was waiting for his 4th Ziggurat. Yeah, Happy always makes sure to have skeletons before attacking. He's very good with the Dark Ranger, and he makes sure every time he kills a unit to get a skeleton out of it, which makes a big difference. It makes a big difference to pay a lot of attention to your Dark Ranger. A lot of attention to your Dark Ranger. Now he's pushing, and what do you know? Focus has to give it up. If this was a tiny Great Hall, yes, Focus would have maybe mined 100 gold off of it by now, maybe 200, but now Focus would actually have to defend this. He would have to all in to defend this expansion or counterattack. So it's actually better for Focus that this wasn't a tiny Great Hall, because he can just cancel and say whatever. Yeah, legit a unit worth of food for his Tidehunters. Yeah, especially on Dark Ranger level 3. Maybe not on level 2 Dark Ranger, but level 3, level 2 Black Arrow for sure. Seeing the ghouls just go back. His push is successful. And then he's going to go... I think Happy either way would have just gone down here and crept the red. But he must have had some intuition that Focus was creeping like this and this. Focus also could have been creeping this during that, and then this. That's another option for Focus, that what he could have been creeping. But either way, Happy's just could just back off and creep the red here. Now, as I mentioned at the start of episode, there's gonna be fights where, like, yes, Happy's done so many things. He saw in the mini, yeah, he might have had a Skelly scout it. But either way, there's only 2 spots that Focus could have gone to. And of course, Happy's still in a good position to fight. So there's going to be spots where Happy's going to win fights. And it's going to be very difficult for other people to win these fights. I know that. We all know that. We all know that. But just some general rules of thumb against Orc. Now, here's a question for you guys. Why does Happy not get Dispel against skeletons? I think that would have been a good idea for or why does Focus not get Dispel against skeletons? I think that would have been a good idea for Focus throughout the series. That's something I would recommend to Orc players, if possible. Getting walkers against this sort of style from the undead, but Focus doesn't. Now, okay, here's a question for you guys. If we have a very short fight, who does it favor? Who do short fights favor in this matchup? Does anybody know? Very short fights. Let's say 20 seconds. Who does that favor? Good. It favors Orc. Why does it favor Orc? It favors Orc, of course, because they have Kodos. They can speed scroll in, they can stomp, they can devour. They can quickly hex the Death Knight, ensnare, focus down 1 fiend, get 2 unit kills, maybe lose a raider to a Coil Nova, and then get out. And speed scroll away. Right? So they can, yes, they'll lose a unit to Coil Nova, as somebody pointed out. Somebody pointed out you're going to lose some stuff to Coil Nova initially in the fight, but the Orc is going to trade better because they have Hex Stomp. They can deny a Coil early on against a Fiend, get Ensnare and kill that unit. They can also get a Devour with the Kodo. So what Orc wants, regardless of if it's a Blade Master or a Farseer, they want short fights. They want to get in, they want to speed scroll in, kill 2 units, and get out. And then they want to do that all over again. And then they want to heal up, get clarities, and do it all over again after their Kodo devours. And they want to continuously get ahead and get ahead and get ahead through short fights. What Undead wants, they're the opposite. They want the fight to go on as long as possible. So Happy's really going to stick it out in these fights. Even when it seems like Happy's losing these fights, he's really going to hold on. Why is he going to hold on, and why are the long fights favoring the Undead? One, because of statues. Statues are the biggest reason why the long fights favor the Undead. Orc has no way of really getting mana back during the fights. It's hard for them to clarity. If they have mana pot, sure. They also have the Dark Ranger getting skeletons. The longer the fight goes on, the more skeletons they will have, which is just good. Their army actually grows as the fight goes on, so it's going to slowly tip the scales in their favor. That's most of the reason. There's probably another reason I could make up. Like, I could say, sure, Unholy Aura gives you regeneration over time. That's really not going to make the biggest of difference. It's like Orc has Troll regen as well. So those are really the two big reasons. Yeah, they have Burrow as well to save some units, whereas Orc doesn't really have that. Kodo has a lot of immediate value, but if they're left in the fight for too long, they die. You know, so there's some small reasons, right? Yeah, when heroes run out of mana, Undead is favored. Yeah, and Orc has a tendency to use a lot of mana early on. They're going to speed scroll in, stomp, hex the Death Knight, use a heal wave to save their Raider, then Chain Lightning to get a Fiend kill. They're going to use, that would be like 350 mana right away. Whereas Undead might use like 200 right away, but then they have statues. So long fights are going to favor Undead, short fights are going to favor Orc. So look how this fight goes for Happy. And again, with that being said, there's, of course, like, there's still situations like I would always lose this fight. I would always lose this fight as the Undead here, because my micro's bad. So that's true. But I'm not going to be playing against Focus, so I got that going for me. See, look, he ensnares, kills a Fiend right away. Now he could stomp and run in. If he had a speed scroll, I think it's a mistake for Focus to not have speed scrolls here. But he could stomp these Fiends, assuming he wasn't silenced, right? And then he could devour a Fiend, and then he could just run away. And he would lose one Raider, but he would kill 2 Fiends. Right? And a Fiend is already more expensive than a Raider, right? Note, he's focusing down the wolves right away. That's something Happy does consistently, which I'd recommend. Yeah, Speed Scroll has a cooldown on heroes, which is why if you have multiple Speed Scrolls, you put them on multiple heroes. Mistake for Focus to not also have Dust here. If he had Dust, maybe he would win the fight even harder. Note Happy's broken upkeep here. And let's take a look at the Orc's mana. The TC died without mana, right? The TC had 0 mana when he died. Farseer, no mana. Shadowhunter, no mana. Undead heroes. Alright, Dark Ranger's out of mana, sure. Death Knight, 2 coils and a mana pot. Lich has a full Nova. Even ignoring the mana pot, Undead has much more mana here. He can save his Lich twice over. And see, like, even if Happy loses every Fiend... I don't know what just happened. Oh. That's what happened. Something popped up on me. Even if... Oh, one sec, guys. Let me go to me for a sec. I gotta log out of BattleNet. Even if Happy loses every unit, he can still save his heroes. Right? Yeah, even if Happy... That's what I'm trying to say. Even if Happy loses every unit, he can still save his heroes and continue to fight afterwards. He can still save his heroes and continue to fight afterwards, and he's still got Orb, he's still got Dark Ranger, which doesn't require a ton of mana to still get skeletons. So as long as Happy has coils, even if he's like losing Fiends and like not being able to save them with coil, he's still going to be able to sustain his heroes later on in the fight, especially with Frost Armor, especially with skeletons, and especially with having that extra coil thanks to the statues. Right? Here we go. With that being said, I think if Focus had Dust here, he would probably own. See, a mistake from Happy. He accidentally unburrowed all the Fiends. Yeah, I should honestly just do this show on my Smurf on BattleNet that has no friends on it. So he kills the Farseer. That was very hype in the series, but, you know, we don't care about hype here. And, like, even though Happy is, like, you know, he's lost a lot of Fiends, at the end of the day, if the Shadowhunter doesn't have mana and the Farseer doesn't have mana for Wolves, like, it doesn't even matter if these Fiends are alive. These 3 heroes are still going to kill every single Berserker and the Kodo. It's no problem for this Tri-Hero. Because they have Frost Armor, they have Black Arrow, they have Orb, they have Coils almost to save the hero. Like, you know, it doesn't matter. The Undead's going to trade favorably when it just comes down to, like, heroes and a couple of units. And look, he's still got a statue left over. Yeah. Could have gone a lot worse. So Happy's going to yet again kill the expansion. And he's got lots of map control because he knows, of course, the Farseer's dead right now. Now, here's a question for you guys. What do you guys think? What, in your opinion, what's the best play for Happy to do right after he kills this tower? What's the best thing for Happy to do? In your guys' opinion, and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. I think in hindsight there could be an objectively right answer, but without knowing what happens in this game, I don't think you would be able to know for sure. Expand himself? Expo, you guys think, really? You guys think? Go after the main, red spot, push, buy items and attack, set up expansion, attack at 50 supply, attack him. I could lower the in-game sound if you guys think it's a bit too loud. I got no problem with that. Just let me know if it is. Resign. Yeah, so I think there's two. I don't think expanding is necessarily the right play. It's just difficult to really secure an expansion against Farseer high level. But maybe you could say that's a play. That's definitely a play a lot of other undeads do. Happy doesn't always go for an expansion. Someone like Michael or 120 might go for an expansion in this spot, and that might be a decent play. We'll never really know how that would have played out. So that might be that might have been a decent option for Happy. He's not going to do that though. He's gonna push here actually. And it looks good initially. He's going to get some value out of pushing, but I think in hindsight, the best play for Happy here, knowing that the Farseer is still dead, I think the best play for him would actually be to go and creep this red. Go and creep this red. Because he knows that Focus just backed up into his base. The Farseer's dead. Most likely, Focus is not going to back up and then run like this way and go creep this red. Right? Most likely what Focus is going to do is he's going to go and just creep his corner, which we know we scouted earlier that wasn't crept. So we know most likely Focus is going to go creep this. So we go creep this red, and we'll be done by the time Focus has done this. And then what we can do is we can actually run cross map and creep the next red. The Farseer will be out in time, but we can probably just eke out both reds. And then what do you know, we can creep our own expansion. I think that would, in hindsight, with a crystal ball letting us see the future, would be the best play in this game. But you can never know these things. You can never know these things. Either way, like, you know, maybe he wouldn't have known to creep this red, but still I think creeping this red would have been better than what he does. He pushes the main base, and we're going to see him get something out of it. He's going to force the Tavern Revive on the Farseer. He's going to kill a Burrow. But I think this is like the only thing that allows Focus to somewhat get back into this game. Why not start with closer red? That's a good question, and definitely something that I could be wrong about. But I think if you start with this red, there's a chance that Focus creeps this, which he is, because I know because I've watched the replay. He creeps this, and then if we're creeping this red, he actually just runs down and creeps this red. So then we end up trading equally. Whereas if we start with this red, knowing that most likely Focus is going to back off and creep this camp, that's the most likely place for him to go, we can actually creep this first and then still get the second red. Is why I would say this red would be the best play. Because this is just the obvious place for him to be creeping, because we knew it was still available, and like I said, when we're killing the expansion, there's no way, in my opinion, Focus is going to, like, run this way and creep this red. I just don't think there's a way he's going to do that. I don't think that'd be a play that he would do. IMO. Which is very difficult to do on the fly, of course, but Happy is one of the greatest players of all time, so I think that's a possibility. But Happy still, I think Happy thought he was much further ahead army-wise than he was. But I mean, Focus is still in a decent spot. Like, he's got a decent army, he's gonna have TC level 3, right? His Shadowhunter's getting items, he's about to Tavern Revive. So what Happy manages to do with this play, and he gets some value out of it, he forces the Tavern Revive on the Farseer, which is very expensive, right? It costs Focus like 600 gold, something around that, 500 gold. And he also is going to kill a burrow. But he's going to lose some units for it. Orc will wolf scout the red? Yes, he could. The Orc would scout the red. But could you also argue that Happy would be able to win the fight over the red? At this stage. Like I said, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. I just think it's interesting to talk, like, you know, what maybe could Happy have done differently here. Maybe this was the right play. Maybe this was the best play. He's going to kill a burrow. He forces the Tavern Revive. He kills 2 burrows even. So, like, you know, definitely looks pretty good, right? He's up 10 supply now. And Focus comes in with a Tavern Revive. He kills a statue, he kills a fiend, he forces a TP. He almost kills a second fiend. And I think all Happy did was force a potion of invulnerability. Am I right? I think I'm right. I don't think he killed a unit, because he went for this raider but didn't get it. So that was really good for Focus, right? Now it's 53 against 49. The heroes are kind of even, although Happy's pulling ahead in the heroes. You know, TC level 3 against Lich level 2, though. So you see, there's a world in which this could have gone worse for Happy. Let's see. Couldn't Happy go for the gold mine on the left first to creep jack, and then maybe go to the down to the red spot? Maybe, but if he does that, what if Focus did this crazy thing where he just went down here and crept the red? Right? Then there's a world in which he creeps this red while we go up here, miss him, and creep this spot, run down here, and then what do you know? He's creep jacking us here with his Farseer. Right, so it's kind of weird, but there's, I know, we could talk about this all day. I'm not exactly sure what objectively the best play would have been in hindsight. So now the supply is pretty even. The only difference is Happy's broken upkeep and Focus hasn't. So Focus actually has the opportunity to come back. Now Happy's going to go to this red, thinking like, oh yeah, both reds are still on the map. But what do you know? Focus just runs right here. Because obviously Happy's going to go for the red. He's going to go for one of these. And either way, Focus either gets a creep jack here or he gets a red himself. So Focus is happy either way. And now we're fighting over the red again. Also worth noting, in the meantime, Focus also got one camp while Happy was pushing the base here too, which allowed him to get TC level 3. Right? Again, a fight where I would probably lose this fight. There's a world I could definitely lose this fight, especially if my opponent's Zeppelin microing like Focus did here. This was such a crazy fight from Focus. It was very well done. Look at this, dude. This is so crazy. Absolutely insane. Heal waves them both. Like, it's just ridiculous. He gets the surround on the Dark Ranger. Gets the hacks. It's just crazy execution, this fight from Focus. And these things happen. These things happen. And what do you know? Focus is ahead in supply. Totally crazy. Totally crazy. Dark Ranger's going to be Tavern Revived, so both players have Tavern Res to level 3 hero at this stage. Yeah, that was just an incredible fight. Like, you could say, like, which is why I asked what was the right play from Happy at that stage, because if Happy had done a different play other than pushing into the main base, they wouldn't have ended up in this exact situation, which actually allowed Focus to win the fight and possibly win the game through winning that fight. Which is why I asked the question, was that the right play for Happy to push into the base? You see? That's why I brought that whole topic up. But regardless of that, Focus just microed incredibly there. That was probably the most well-executed fight of this whole series by Focus himself, so yeah. Sometimes that'll happen. Focusing the wolves down still, trying to extend the fight. The statue dies, yes, but that's why we build extra statues. I think at a time in this game, Happy had 4 statues. And see, the wolves die really quickly. They do a ton of damage, but they die in one wave of attacks, which is why Happy's always focusing them down right away, which is also why I don't think Happy needed to go destroyers here. TP passed. And Happy wins the fight. The Shadowhunter has 1 heal wave left. The TC no stomp. The Farseer has one cast of Wolves or Chain Lightning again. The DK, 250 mana. Dark Ranger out. Lich, decent. But the big thing is he's still got coils left over at the end of the day. And what do you know? Look at all these skellies he has. Crazy. Crazy skellies. These are all like... If these 1v1'd a Berserker, they would almost win. That's how good these skellies are at this stage. And at last, Happy's gonna get a red camp. Finally. Finally a red camp. Continues to scout for the expansion.
Our forces are under attack.
And as long as it stays one base, and you're not getting absolutely destroyed in the fights, because you're making sure the fights are a long fight where you can eventually fade out effectively, your heroes will carry you later on. Your heroes are going to scale much better because you have Silence Coil Nova, and what do you know, that hard counter Shadowhunter and Tauren Chieftain. Yes, they have Hex Stomp to hard counter DK, but you have the much bigger potential to get a hero kill when there's no Blade Master. Do you think Happy struggles against Orc because EU barely got any Orcs, or because the matchup is imbalanced? I definitely don't think the matchup's bad for Orc currently, but I do think it's still Happy's weakest matchup, and he doesn't have a ton of practice against it. So I think all 3 factors at the same time. But I don't think it's horribly imbalanced at all. I think it's Orc favored. It's not, like, egregiously imbalanced or anything, though. Did he pull the boys? I'm surprised Happy hasn't actually pulled the boys yet. Oh, he lost the ghouls earlier. That's what happened. Okay. And now look at all these skeletons. He's got 50 supply skeletons. Make sure to get this one as well. Yeah, he bought he bought a parry up to Vitality this game. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why he bought that. I don't know why he bought... That is the first time, I said that during the cast as well of this game. That's the first time I've seen somebody buy a parry up to Vitality in 1v1. Yeah. Very weird. He buys it for the Lich. Like, wouldn't just buying a Circlet be better? Wouldn't just buying a Circlet be better? I don't know. Because Circlet would give you mana, attack speed, armor. I'm not sure what the effective HP you get from a Circlet is when you add in the armor as well. It'd be, of course, less than the HP of a parry up, but, you know. And I think Happy's unsummoned his altar. No, he probably will unsummon his altar soon. That's very commonly what Happy does. Yeah, and honestly, most of his damage is coming from the Dark Ranger and the Skeletons either way. So really, all the Lich is here to do, it's not here to do a ton of damage, it's just here to apply the Orb, Frost Armor, Nova. Whereas normally in a lot of matchups, your Lich is actually your carry. In this situation, the Dark Ranger is your carry. So you just want to keep that Lich alive. And the Dark Ranger is very tanky because agility hero. Happy's basically saying there, if my heroes live, I win. For sure, yeah. Supply is even, but Happy has the very strong heroes. And Focus has strong heroes as well, worth noting, but he has strong heroes that he needs to invest gold in at all times to keep them alive. Of course, I'm saying that as Happy just bought a Periapt, but like, you know, Focus needs mana pots, he needs clarities, heal salves, he needs potion of invulnerability to break the silence, he ideally needs health pots to keep his heroes alive. Happy doesn't always need those things. He could keep his heroes alive with just Coil and Frost Armor, whereas Focus, like, if this Shadowhunter's out of position for a second, silence Coil Nova and it's dead right away. So Focus, his heroes are strong, but only if he's preemptively invested into items. Really struggle with the wolves, but refuse to make destroyers. Yeah, I mean, destroyer, it's weird because Happy has such good destroyer micro too that he doesn't go for at least one, but like we noticed at the start of the fights, he almost always focuses these wolves down right away. Hey, Get Rich Brothers, thank you for the 25 months. Says, keep up the TheoryCraft, brother. Definitely one of the best Warcraft 3 content out there. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And what do you know? Peons. Peons, if you're playing Dark Ranger second, you should love the sight of peons. Because look at that. He actually only got 3. He should have got 5. That's a mistake, but he was a little panicked, I think, because he was preparing for the fight. And this is game 5, right, guys? This is game 5. The last game of the tournament, guaranteed. So, I mean... yeah, if you get it ensnared, then it's your Destra's dead in one volley for sure. Hey, thank you to Cadrinro as well for the Prime for 4 months. Thank you, thank you. And there we see the weakness of Orc heroes. Not that their spells are weak, not that they cannot also kill heroes, not that their spells are equally as good as the undeads, but because they can't live as long as the undead heroes with Frost Armor and Coil and statues and Unholy Aura and all that stuff, right? They can't live as long. You know, and there's the weakness in the late game for the Orc. And that's why, as the undead, if you're able to push it to the late game, when you both have really high level heroes, as long as the Orc doesn't have a second base up the whole time, you're going to be favored. And Periapt, yes, and Periapt, of course. And at this stage, I think Focus had he was kind of getting ready to say GG, because this Shadowhunter is horribly out of position. And GG is called. There's game 1. Very instructive, isn't it? Very instructive. I thought that was a particularly good game, just overall, but there's also a lot to learn from that replay. Right, so that was game 1. And as I said, like, we were going to focus a lot on the details in game 1. For replay number 2, 3, and 4, we're more so just going to paint in broad strokes. We're just going to say, oh, here's the timing that we talked about on Autumn Leaves, and here's where Happy's moving on the map as a reaction to that timing. That's more how we're going to talk about this going into the next replays. Right? So we're going to take a short break. We'll be back, and we'll bang out the next 3 replays. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the things we went over, just so they're in our heads crisp and clean for the next replays. Be right back. All right, welcome back to TheoryCraft. Now we've established sort of a baseline of what's going on, right? We know the general build order, the order in which Happy's going to build his units, his slaughterhouse, his tier 3 tech, why he's passive at times, why he's more aggressive at times, and the timings in which the Orc is going to do things. We know when the Orc Shadowhunter is going to be out. We know we have like that 45-second grace period when we get our Dark Ranger, that their Shadowhunter or Torn Chieftain is not going to be out, so we can be aggressive for that timing. Then we want to back off and be passive when it is already out. We know around the third dot of day, after the heal scroll spawn, that's around the time, 8.5 minutes, when the tier 3 of the Orc is about to kick in. So again, we want to be a little bit more passive. We know what we want to scout for, expansions, we want to see what their second hero is, what are they creeping? Are they creeping to level 3? Are they harassing on level 1? Change around when our Nerubian tower is going to be built. These are all things that we just saw Happy do in the last replay, and all things we're going to see Happy continue to do through at least the next 2 of 3 replays we're going to watch. Thank you, Wiz. Thank you. Yeah, that's an important thing to do because, like, you know, I don't analyze replays of people that aren't top pros unless it's the once a month we do community replays, in which case it's a lot of speculation and guessing, and, you know, we're all talking about it together in a way. The reason why, you know, I don't do that is because then it would be a lot of guesswork on my hand. If I was analyzing, for instance, my own replays, I'd be like, here's why I did this. But then it would probably be wrong. So we're sort of forced in a way. We're backed into a corner. We have to analyze on this show the best players. But then there's the downside of when we only analyze the best players where, well, that's not what my ladder opponents do. So it can be tricky to learn from the best players because our opponents on ladder, like, as an undead player, oh, well, my opponents just go Blade Master, Fast Shop, and Speed Scroll harass my acolytes. It's like, well, shit, well, Focus doesn't do that ever. How am I supposed to learn how to do that? So it's difficult. It's difficult at times to compare these games to how maybe the Orcs will play in ladder, but we're forced. We're forced to do that in a way. So it's just important to notice that for sure, for sure. So let's write out a few notes, and then we'll make sure to not lollygag around too long. I'll just generally write out the sort of steps we took. So Ted Fiends. And if you're unaware what Ted Fiends is, it's literally just the build order that Happy's going to do. We go for, let me look at my notes just so I get this all right. So we want 3 Fiends before tech finishes, right? And also worth noting, our Nerubian based on scouting or lack of, right? So the Nerubian will be based on the timing in which the Farseer could be at our base, right? Which we're going to see in every other replay. 3 Fiends before the tech finishes. We're going to get Slaughter House plus 3rd Zig plus Dark Ranger. And then after the 4th Fiend plus 1st Statue is when we're going to go to Tier 3. And then, of course, when we get Tier 3, we want to get up to 50 supply Statue Fiend with like 5 Fiends, 3 Statues, Tri-Hero, all that stuff, and get our Lich with Orb. All those sorts of things. Those are just generally the build order sorts of things. Right? That's it. That's what we need to be looking out for. And then we also need to be thinking about one other thing, and that is being aware of Orc's second hero timing. So if we're aware of that timing, we're aware of when we can be pressuring them and when we have to be more passive because we have to be scared of Hex, but we can also be aggressive if they're going for TC or if they don't have their second hero out yet. And we also have to be aware of Orc's Tier 3 timing. 3rd dot of day or 8:30. These are the 2 times we have to be aware of because we also want to be passive because although our Tier 2 tech is going to be slightly ahead by about 5 seconds, our Tier 3 tech as the Undead is actually going to be behind the Orcs. So they're going to have Tier 3, Tri-Hero, Berserkers, their first Kodo out, which Kodo of course isn't Tier 3, but they get it at Tier 3. They're going to have all those things before we have Lich with Orb, so we want to be passive. We have Grace Period at Tier 2, but we don't have that luxury at Tier 3 because the Orc gets ahead tech-wise later on. And then there's one other dynamic we mentioned where, like, DK level 2 would be greater than FS level 2. There's sort of this dynamic. And then DK level 1 is worse than FS level 1. And then DK level 3 is, how do you do greater than or equal to? Let's just say equal Farseer level 3, depending on, and thank you Deuce for this, because I think that's absolutely a great way to put it, DK level 3 may or may not be stronger than the Farseer level 3, depending on the health and mana of the Death Knight. Yeah, greater than or equal to. But also the Farseer could be greater than, depending on the health or mana. Let's do that. How about that? How about that? How's that look? Greater than or equal to or less than. How about that? Depending on if we have a very healthy Death Knight with lots of mana on level 3, then we can be happy to fight against the Farseer. But if our Death Knight's low and we don't have a lot of mana, the Farseer with level 2 Wolves is going to absolutely destroy us. So this, what we just wrote out here, is the more high level, how the sort of push and pull power spike dynamic of this matchup currently works. At the surface level. Right? That's generally what we need to be thinking about. That doesn't make sense? What doesn't make sense? Do you have a question? Oh, you mean this doesn't make sense? The greater than or equal to or less than? One of those things? Whatever, fine. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'll get rid of that. I'll get rid of that. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Alright. That's that. It doesn't matter. 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 All right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. I already said exactly what I was saying. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It does not matter at all. Literally the least important part of the last 2.5 hours. All right? All right? Are we good? Are we good? We can go past it? All right. You just replay number 2. A Tidehunters. This was in the series. What game was this in the series? Game number 3 in the series. This is game number 3. The replay before we watched game number 5. Here we go. And let's keep those things in mind we just talked about. Is there game sound? No, there isn't. Ooh, there we go.
The damned stand ready.
Isn't BM and Cryptlord an option? Absolutely. I've done already an episode on playing Blademaster against Cryptlord. I've also done an episode on Cryptlord, not necessarily against Orc, but I've done an episode on Cryptlord. Those are definitely options, but it's just hard to cover every possible strategy in one episode, which is why we're specifically talking about this series and more specifically Death Knight against Farseer. But yeah, for sure, there are a lot more options for both players.
Summoning is the damned stand ready.
So same build order as always. The Acolyte last game crept, but this time it's actually going to Scout for Happy.
Summoning is complete.
Kills the critter, of course. Happy's going to do a cool creep route this game. Again, he's going to do another cool creep route. The standard choice, the most common choice. Well, let me ask you guys. What would you guys creep, undead players? I see 2 already talking. What would be the first camp you guys would creep? If you were to load into a ladder game, we weren't watching a Happy replay right now. If you were just loading in, what would you go to creep? What camp would you creep? Initially. Because there is a very standard choice that we tend to see a lot of undeads creep. What do you think? Bidu, what would you creep? What would you creep right away? Right and left of the base. Great. Yeah, and that would be level 2. For sure. Right and left of the base, meaning this bad boy, which this, yes. This is the most common, for sure. Wiz, absolutely, yep. We'll lose all the health on the DK creep for the orange. Yeah. Now let's smash our mouse! Yeah, so this is the most standard. And then, like, sometimes this, more commonly probably this, though, because it's a better item. Yeah, so that's the most standard. Absolutely. That's probably what I would creep joining into a game, which is why I think this is a very cool creep route from Happy. He's going to do something a little bit differently.
Summoning is complete.
Remember the Nerubian timing, based on the information we gained from the scouting. Now, the most common creep route for orcs, most of the time with Farseer, which we're going to see in a second. Let's wait till we see that it's a Farseer. That second burrow will mean that it's a Farseer. The barracks timing also would. Is to creep this turtle camp, and then this turtle camp, then that's level 2. And then they can normally, you know, what is it? I think they do commonly, they run over here with 3 headhunters and like take the consumable, or they creep like the shop. But what Happy's going to do is he's actually going to deny the Farseer from being able to easily get level 2, and he's actually going to creep this right away, which is cool. It stops Focus from doing the creep route he wanted to. Which I think is real dope.
Is complete.
But there's lots of different creep routes. I think Tidehunters is a good map for having variable creep routes. This is just one of them. So he sees the Farseer creeping a green first. So what do you know? Remember, this was the time that he actually upgraded the Nerubian. Remember, because we said he needed to have the Nerubian by 245 on Autumn Leaves, and we said the Nerubian was going to be done by 240. So he would have already been upgrading it had he been afraid of an instant Farseer harass. Yeah, the Zig placement as well, yeah. So this Nerubian's actually going to be upgraded after the tech. Just got engaged yesterday. Congratulations, Kiro. Well done, my friend. I hope I'm not wrong about the Nerubian. I shouldn't be wrong about it. I shouldn't be.
Our forces are under attack.
I shouldn't be. Acolyte dies. Of course, it needs to die eventually, so it served its purpose. Yeah, so he's going to tech and then get the Nerubian. And let's note that this Nerubian actually delays the first Fiend. So Happy is taking... It's not as though Happy can just get this no matter what, and he doesn't have to sacrifice anything to get it. No, his first Fiend is actually quite a bit delayed because he gets this Nerubian. He could have been already building this first Fiend. Right? And he would have been able to build his second Ziggurat. So this is a sacrifice to Happy to build. That's just how much he respects the potential for a Farseer harass. So yes, undead players out there, even Happy is afraid of the Farseer harass. So don't think you're so cool you don't need to build a Nerubian. You do need to build a Nerubian. Because or else Happy would just be building his Fiend and his second Zig. He builds the Nerubian because he's afraid of the Farseer harass. Respect it. Respect it. You're not too cool. You're not too cool to go Nerubian-less. You explain the orc side of fighting Happy's army late game? Well, you know, being focus helps with that, Armin. Definitely helps. But we are going to watch a replay of Focus winning, so if you watch till the last replay, you'll be able to see some stuff.
Upgrade complete.
What's cooler than being cool? Ice cold. And see the Farseer? He did actually run down to try to creep this, realized it was already taken, and then crept this. And goes into the base to try to maybe do some harassment. Sees as a Nerubian. Uh-oh, can't do anything. So Happy's actually in a good spot this game, because as we've established, level 2 against level 2 is good for Happy. He's happy to have Aura against a level 2 Farseer. He's totally fine with it. Seems like a weird coil, but the reason he coils is, of course, there's a Chain Lightning available, so he doesn't want to give any experience up. That's why he coiled. He was also full mana, so why not? First Fiend comes out. This is denied by Focus. This is very important. This is very important right here. This plays into the sort of Happy being aware of when he's strong and when he's weak. He's creeping, knowing that Focus is right here. Now, what could Focus do? Focus could maybe back up and creep the shop, or back up and creep the marketplace. But either way, Happy's going to be ahead in creeping, because he's going to be starting this camp right now, and Focus still has to run all the way there. The other option is Focus is trying to be aggressive level 2 versus level 2, which then plays into Happy being fine with being stuck on level 2 against the Farseer being stuck on level 2. So either way, if he gets creepjacked here, he's happy. He literally is happy. If he gets creepjacked here, he's content. And if Focus runs to the middle and starts creeping, he's slower than Happy, so yet again, he's content. So either way, it's a win-win. See, Focus does not want to allow Happy to get further ahead in experience, so he creepjacks. But again, this is level 2 against level 2, and the Death Knight has double claws. So this is totally fine. As long as the Farseer is not getting level 3 behind this, totally fine.
Summoning is complete.
Happy is literally happy, and Happy is content, literally, for this stream. You might be asking yourself, this Orc army looks really scary. Why isn't he just pushing? Well, he could, but against somebody the caliber of Happy, Focus would probably lose a Headhunter or two, and he wouldn't kill anything because of the Nerubian and the ghouls.
The sleeper awakes.
Now, let's also note, Happy could, he sees Focus back away, so Focus is now going to either creep this or creep this. That's most likely what he's going to creep. He maybe could back off and creep this or something, but that would be weird. Happy has the option at this stage to creep this camp. He has the option just to finish this creep camp and try to get level 3, whatever. But he knows that Focus is stuck on level 2. Let's check Focus's experience, 2.1. Happy 2.5. Either way, maybe they're both 2.5. But he knows if he pressures the Farseer right now, not only is he about to hit reach tier 2 and he can get Dark Ranger, but also he can force the Farseer to be stuck on level 2, which is going to favor the Death Knight, even if the Death Knight sacrifices level 3 for it as well. So Happy decides to not actually finish creeping this camp and get very close to level 3. He decides instead to go aggressive on the map, get Dark Ranger, and creepjack the Farseer, keeping Focus on level 2. Very important. Notice he even like sort of sidestepped, thinking he was going to creep this, and then was like, wait, no, I should go and play aggressive. Very intentional from Happy.
Upgrade.
Sees he's not here. Most likely the Orc's going to be creeping this. It's a very common, I even said at the beginning of the game, very common for Orcs to creep like this, and then creep this, and then maybe creep this with like 3 Headhunters. Very common to get that consumable.
I'm here.
Picks up the Dark Ranger. Again, he's going to get Slaughterhouse soon. And what do you know? Creepjack's Focus. The Farseer's stuck on level 2. All very good for Happy. Even gets a Headhunter. Because before there's level 2 Wolves there, the Aura is actually very good against the Headhunters. And the level 2 Wolves is really what carries the Farseer in the fights, hero versus hero. See, and there's still a little bit of a grace period, because remember, we have about 45 seconds. Let's just check the Shadowhunter timing right now, shall we? Grace period, right? This is about another 30 seconds before it's finished training. Then it's got to walk across the map. So Happy's got about 30 seconds here. So he creepjacks him once, and then he gobbles up the rest of this camp, comes over here to slow down the creeping of the Farseer to level 3 with the Death Knight. All while thinking in his head, okay, Shadowhunter's on the way, Shadowhunter's on the way. Eventually, Happy's going to need to back up.
Our forces are under attack.
Right now, thinking Shadowhunter could be on the way, Shadowhunter could be on the way, because, you know, Happy's not going to know down to the second when the Farseer's out. Or when the Shadowhunter's out, rather. But he knows pretty much around this time it's going to be out. So kills the Headhunter, slows down the creeping. Thinking now, okay, Shadowhunter's about to be out, Shadowhunter's about to be out, has a tiny bit more time. Let's just check back to the base, of course. Ziggurat. This time he did a little bit different order of things, which I said sometimes changes around, but I would just refer to the first replay for the, I think, the best way of ordering things. But yeah, Slaughterhouse. Ziggurat, it went tier 3 tech a little bit earlier, and then he's going to get his 4th Fiend in his first statue. Little bit extra time. Let's check the Shadowhunter. Let's check it. Oh, it's about to be out. It's about to be out. Skeleton scouting to see, is the Shadowhunter here? Is it here? Is it here? Sees the Headhunters. Note, he's running away the Fiends because he thinks Shadowhunter could be here. Shadowhunter could be here. Runs back home. Look at the timing. Look how sick this is. Look at this. And he's going back. He's going back home now. He's on his way home. Super dope from Happy. Super dope.
Summoning is complete.
Going back passive. Literally goes back to the most passive possible camp currently. Well, maybe actually this is the most passive possible camp. And this camp is already gone, or else this would be. But he's gonna pull this camp, I believe, is what he creeps here. Fourth Fiend statue. See, look, he literally runs back into his base. Okay, no, he does do the most passive possible camp. How sick. This is purely based around him knowing the Shadowhunter is going to be out. And this Creepjack was purely based around him knowing he has the advantage level 2 versus level 2. He's just playing into all the power spikes. This is why Undead is so hard. Because this is how what you have to do to get ahead. For statues out, remember this is when Happy in the last game actually went for the lab, which was counter to what I thought was best to do, but he still managed to make it work. Well, Bugman, I'm sure you're GM with Undead then. I'm sure you're GM. So again, weird fight, right? Just like the lab on Autumn Leaves, where I said this is a bit of a weird fight. I would panic in Town Portal right here. Why isn't Happy panicking and Town Portaling right here? Because Happy realizes if he, although this is a difficult fight to take with the Scroll of the Beast with the Hex, right? He realizes if he Town Portals away from here, Focus has already crept this, but Focus importantly is going to creep this entire red if he Town Portals away. If Happy disengages from this fight, he's giving up this red camp. And he's most likely giving up this camp as well. But at bare minimum, he's giving up the red camp. Thank you, Burr Rush, for the 100 bits. Farseer Headrunners forever. Absolutely, right there with you. He's giving up this camp guaranteed. So yes, this isn't a good fight for Happy, but he's fighting, even if he loses a unit, he's fighting not to win the fight, but he's fighting over this creep camp essentially right now. Hello, Brett. How's it going? And luckily for Happy, his Dark Ranger has very good items here, which helps out quite a bit. And second statue comes in, that helps out a ton. But he's out of coils now. Hey Cam, thank you for the 101. FS Header is a BM, no man or TT. Appreciate that, hey Cam. And a Fiend falls. But remember, long fights is what we want. Long fights is what we want. Statue dies, yes, but we soon to have a coil now. The Shadowhunter is completely out of mana. We still have a statue. So yes, we're taking losses. Yes, we're taking losses. But in the long run, Happy wins the fight. In the long run, he doesn't win the fight. I shouldn't say that. He didn't trade favorably, but he doesn't have to Town Portal away. That's what I'm saying. And now, what do you know? He can Creepjack Focus at the red camp and not allow him to get it. If he had Town Portal away, it would have been exactly the same, only Focus would have gotten this camp for free. It turns out much better than might have expected, yeah. And what do you know? Kodo kills another Berserker and forces a TP, and he even, I think, got the last hit on the big creep. Now, this is very important. This is very important, this stage in the game, which just shows how aware Happy is of everything going on. Let's just point out right now. Tier 3 just finished. This is about to come out, right? There's 2 plays now. There's 2 plays from Focus. What are the 2 plays that Focus could do at this stage in the game? What are the 2 plays that Focus could do at this stage of the game? Can anybody name one of 2? Knowing what we know based on the timings of last game. Note, our Lich is about to come out. Yeah, he could expand, that's one play. He could immediately Tiny Great Hall, for sure. Hey, Micro Jordan, what's up? He could Alt QQ, for sure. He's definitely behind. He could Alt QQ. He could Cry and Pout, or All In. Yeah, so the 2 plays would be he can immediately Tiny Great Hall, which is actually, I think, the best play from Focus. Because if we look the way Tidehunters works, and the reason why Happy stayed right here and fought, is because, let's just imagine all the creep camps are available. So let's look at the top of the map. This creep camp's gone, this creep camp's gone, this creep camp's gone. So if we go to the top, yes, we have both of our labs available. Sure, let's ignore that for now. But just this side of the map, this top of the map, there's this red camp, very difficult to creep for both players currently. And then there's 2 little green camps. Whereas on the bottom of the map, we have orange, big consumable, orange, big consumable, red camp, consumable, orange, orange, orange. So the bottom of the map is much, much, much more valuable. So Focus either has to town portal out of here and immediately run back down to contest these creep camps that are still available. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's still 4 oranges down here that if Focus does not contest, Happy's going to creep all of them. And in the meantime, Focus can creep like maybe the lab and a green camp. Probably not the red. So that's why Focus is either forced into Tiny Great Halling right now or running right down to fight again. He can only do one or the other. So Happy's actually scouting immediately for the potential for an expansion. Because there's only 2 plays, or else Focus is just going to be extremely behind and probably not win. There's only those 2 plays. There's intermediate plays, in between both. Intermediate is the right, whatever. There's plays you could do which you're behind for doing, but you don't just lose. But still, you're against Happy if you're Focused. So you have to go all in one way or the other. And we see he's gonna go for the Tiny Great Hall and just hope he can hold. But Happy scouts it perfectly. It just so happens Happy's at a very big power spike. So he's going to creep 1 more camp. In fact, he crept 2 more camps. He crept this as well. Got a Pendant of Energy. He'll stop at the shop. I think he pulls the boys here. Maybe not. Gets his Potion of Vulnerability stolen, but he grabs a heal scroll instead.
Research complete.
And I think right here, I think creeping this green camp wouldn't be bad. Similar to what I was talking about at the end of last game. Maybe creeping this green if it's still available, which it is. 3 more skeletons. Why not? Yeah. Yeah, maybe the better play for Focus would have been to run right back down and fight, and then Expo if he wins. I think that'd be a good play for him, for sure. Especially based on how this game played out for Focus. And what do you know? Peons. Maybe he doesn't need to creep that green, because he can get skeletons from peons. So he should try to kill, like, as many of these as he can. Gets 1, gets 4 skeletons. And the thing is, so Shadowhunter is very good for Focus because it gives him map control early at tier 2. It allows him to potentially win fights like right here. It allows him to potentially win the red camp. Whereas Torn Chieftain can't do that because you need level 3 on Torn Chieftain. Right? But the upside of Torn Chieftain second as opposed to Shadowhunter second is if you can get TC level 3 before you hit tier 3, you can actually hold this push right here with TC level 3 as opposed to Shadowhunter. So that's sort of the downside of Shadowhunter, is because your TC isn't leveled yet, you can't actually hold these sorts of timings. So this Tiny Great Hall is actually just a mistake from Focus. If he had TC second instead of Shadowhunter second, in my opinion, I think this Tiny Great Hall actually isn't that big of a mistake. But having level 1 TC, you just can't win this fight here. Why does he always split claws? I don't know, that's a good question. I'm not actually entirely sure why he does that. It is very tempting to put everything on one hero, though, for sure. I will give you that one. Happy almost wins the fight without losing a unit, but he'll lose his statues eventually.
Research complete. Our forces are under attack.
But he's probably got another statue on the way. He in fact does. And this is soon to be game over. Trying to hold on. Look just how fast the wolves die when you actually worry about killing them. Dodges the ensnare. Focus needed dust to take that fight. Definitely, definitely. I still don't think he'd be able to hold if he had dust. If he had Torn Chieftain level 2 and dust, maybe. What's his experience at on the TC? Almost level 2 after the fight. Maybe if he had that, he'd be able to hold, but it's difficult. And GG's. It's a pretty cool game, right? Pretty cool. And that just all plays into Happy playing around the power spikes perfectly. I think a few mistakes Focus made was for one, being too aggro on level 2 Farseer, which enabled Happy to play around that Dark Ranger creep jack at the marketplace. And then Happy got a lot of map control, early Death Knight level 3, and he didn't really lose anything. And the Farseer level 3 was quite late. And then again, that tiny Great Hall was maybe not the right play, seeing as though he didn't go TC second, in my opinion. You think? Learn that Aura first and TC is crippling you more than it helps? Yeah, I think still only having Stomp as well, not having Aura is a little bit rough as well. Alright, so that's game number 2. A replay number 2. Replay number 3. We're going to look at the same things. It's going to be on Total Rock. We're going to look at very similar things. I don't think there's any reason to take any breaks or to write any notes, because game 3 is just going to further reinforce these principles that we've already established. It's going to be a very similar look, you know, the push and pull of the power dynamic of this matchup. Let's check it out. Replay 3. Turtle Rock. A weird map. Definitely a weird map, but it was in the pool. So here we go. Replay number 3. Thanks, Jeebus. Appreciate you.
The damned stand ready.
So this will be our last replay of Happy winning. So if you can't stand to see Happy lose, this should be the last replay you watch. And then replay number 4 will be Happy losing. Oh no. Oh no, guys.
Stand ready.
Oh no. So it's going to be the same build order from Happy yet again, just the same stuff. I mean, sometimes the Slaughterhouse is after the tier 3, sometimes the tier 3 is a little later. Sometimes he techs before getting his 4th Fiend. Tiny differences, right? But overall, the same exact build from Happy. Nothing too crazy unit-wise, build order-wise, right? Death Knight will come out.
Is complete.
So you kind of have to do a little bit of a weird creep route on this map, because, unless, in case you guys don't know, there's no critters on Turtle Rock. If we look around the map, there's no critters anywhere. So you can't get skeletons early, because your graveyard, of course, is going to be too late to have skeletons available when your Death Knight comes out. So actually what you have to do as the undead here is Happy pulls a ghoul right away, uses a ghoul to creep, just to be able to kill this little turtle, which he actually uses a coil on as well, just to get skeletons, because there's no critters. For some reason, they haven't updated it to have critters yet. I don't know why they haven't. But, yeah, there's no critters. So that's what we're going to see for Happy, and that's just specific. We've had, you know, pretty interesting creep routes from Happy every game, and this is an interesting thing on Turtle Rock as well, but yeah, I would recommend all the creep routes we're seeing from Happy today, by the way. I think they're all excellently thought out creep routes. Of course they are. Alright, Death Knight soon to come out.
Summoning is complete.
How does the critter give you 2 skeletons? I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a age-old question, isn't it?
The pact is sealed.
So he's going to pull 1 ghoul. I want to show you 2 things at the same time. So he's going to... Okay, I'll show you this, and then I want to show you something else. So see, he coils and kills this. He tanks all the damage on the ghoul, because the ghoul is just going to be sent back to lumber anyway, and it will regenerate on blight. Now, Focus is creeping a green camp. When do we build our Nerubian? Guys, when are we going to build our Nerubian? Our opponent is creeping. Typically, let's say. Does anyone know? Does anyone know? We don't. We are going to always build a Nerubian against Farseer Headhunters. Always, always, always. We're going to build it whenever we feel like it. Tankster, good stuff. We're going to build it after our attack because the Farseer is creeping, so the earliest the Farseer can arrive at our base is going to be after we've already started teching, so unless I'm wrong, we'll find out if I'm wrong together, okay? I won't shy away from it if I am wrong. But because the Farseer is creeping, I imagine Happy will get it after he techs. We'll find out. Let's find out. If the Farseer were to straight harass us, we'd be upgrading it right now. I'll keep an eye on it, okay? Not going to shy away, okay? Not going to shy away. Let's see. Is he going to attack? Is he going to attack? 2 lumber. Yep. There we go. Okay. He creeps that. Doesn't lose any skeletons. A very important part of just undead at this high of a level. Now, at the lower levels, at my skill level, I can lose skeletons creeping, not a big deal. But at this skill level, Happy against Focus, if you're losing 1 skelly and your creeping is that much slower, it's actually a big deal. Which is actually going to come into play right here. So this matters, the fact that Happy creeps this so cleanly. And now he's going to get the Nerubian. There we go. And let's just check the Farseer coming across the map. So if the Farseer were to run straight to his base, the Nerubian will probably be done like 5 seconds after. Which is a window I think Happy's totally fine with. And then his Fiend will come up, and then his second Ziggurat will be built. Happy just trying to get level 2 if he can. See, he's going to be harassed, but he really still just wants to get level 2. At all costs. Well, not at all costs, but get level 2. A little bit of a mistake there, but he gets level 2. But he's taken a lot of damage and used a lot of mana for it. So yes, Happy's in a good position because he's level 2 against a level 1 Farseer. Even if it was a level 2 Farseer, he'd be in a good position. But the cost is half health on the Death Knight and less than half mana. Right, so Happy can't be overly aggressive at this stage. But if he was full health, full mana, he certainly could be. Fiend, Ziggurat, all things we know. Focus could maybe have crept the rest of this, which he is actually. But his Farseer is going to go aggro because or else he'd have to run down like here or something, and Happy would just get ahead and creeping. Much further ahead than maybe he already is. Acolyte comes in. This Acolyte has to die anyway, so why not use it for creeping? Even if it might die to the Farseer. Okay, both players level 2. But there's a big difference. A Fez O Fez P with the 32 months. F easy of easy P. Maybe that. But I appreciate it nevertheless. 3 months. Or 32 months, thank you. So, you might be asking yourself, well, Carson, you said level 2 against level 2 was favor undead. Why can't Happy just push right now? Well, there's a few reasons. Again, we've already said his Death Knight's very low. The Farseer is healthy with good mana. The Death Knight has 2 coils. Importantly, though, no Rod of Necromancy. Happy did not stop by to get another Rod, which maybe was a mistake to not get another Rod on his way across. I think it was off cooldown. Which is why Happy can't actually pressure these Headhunters. If he did have a fresh Rod and maybe a couple hundred more hit points, he'd probably get skeletons and try to like kill this Headhunter, for instance. And he probably could. But he's not going to be able to do much here. Because he's out of skeletons. You need the skeletons. They're very important. Skeleton Scout, very important. Happy Scouts is Happy Scouts so much that it's like hard for me to catch all the scouting he does. Like I've missed it in these replays already. Because he scouts just so much, so often, so many different places with skeletons constantly, that I often miss them, but, like, you know, it's worth noting he's constantly seeing everything on the map. Now, this is an important scout because he sees the CORSAIR running up. Not running to go aggressive again, not running, like, down this way. If he was running, like, this way, you would think he's going to go creep your shop. If he was running up, maybe you'd think he's going to creep this really quick. But since he's running this direction, you can guess he's either going to go creep his shop, or he's going to creep this orange and then this shop. Either way, this creep route right now ends with this shop for sure. Because he's got enough headhunters to do so. So he's going to go creep level 3 and eventually creep the shop. And that's what the skeleton... See, and we know now that he's actually going to go creep the shop just based on the movement. And you might be saying, okay, this is decent then. This is similar to what we saw last game. Happy's level 2, the Farseer of Focus is level 2. We're about to hit tier 2 and can get our Dark Ranger and then go pressure. But it just so happens that, unfortunately, I think Happy would be too late. Because Focus is already going to start it. I think Happy would be too late to creep Jack. If he went for a Dark Ranger, and then he had to run like around this way to creep Jack, or had to run like around this way to creep Jack, I think he would be too late, and Focus would be level 3 then, against a level 2 Death Knight. And yes, maybe you'd get a Headhunter, but Focus would already be level 3. So Happy's going to do it a little bit differently. Just because the map is so big, you can't actually go for this sort of a creep Jack.
Upgrade complete.
I'm here.
He's just going to instead take his own shop, which I think is the best play here. I think this is the best play for Happy. Slaughterhouse, he's going to get his third Zig any moment now in 30 gold. Build it. Build it. Build it. Come on, Happy. Come on, Happy. There we go. Let's remember, this is the grace period. We have a little bit of time, Farseer's level 3, though, on top of us. We still have a little bit of time. Let's just check just so we know. The Shadowhunter should be, like, maybe 60% done. I might be wrong. Let's see. 60% done? All right, like 90% done. So it's pretty close. But, you know, we still have a little bit of time because the map is so big. If the Shadowrunner wants to walk across the map all the way, it's going to take him a little bit. So we got a little bit more time. But Focus is doing a good job here with the Wolves to just delay. So I'd say Focus is actually ahead here. He's ahead in this position. Still have a little bit more time, remember? A little bit more time. Remember when Happy squeezed out the shop on Tidehunters? Well, this is his Tidehunter shop right here. This is the one just last second creep camp before he potentially gets creep jack. But Happy is going to do something after this camp, which was really surprising to all of us when we were casting, but looking back on it, it's super sick. So he's got a lot of skeletons. He knows, he actually scouts the Shadowhunter right here. He sees the Shadowhunters creeping one camp. So yes, he says like, okay, maybe I'm going to get creep jacked, but what I'm going to do before I get creep jacked is I'm going to go snag the item, and then if I have to TP, I have to TP, whatever. At least I'm going to get this Ogre Lord. I'm going to get level 3 at close to, and I might have to TP to a Shadowhunter creep jacking me, but this Ogre Lord is worth a TP. So Happy's going to like use the skeletons he has, and instead of backing up right now, the only thing Happy could do at this stage would be to creep this, and then to like back up and maybe creep this, or back up and this is already gone, right? So the only play Happy has at this stage is to be extremely passive. So instead he says, whatever, so be it. If I get creep jacked, I TP away and it's fine. At least I get the item. But this is just such a good play. Because he's got just a tiny bit of time with the Skeleton Scout over here. He gets 4 song battle drums. And now you could say, with him seeing the Shadowhunter here, he could just TP out immediately. But instead he decides to actually sack a Fiend. Which you could argue against, but still, overall overall worthwhile to get that creep and get the item for a single fiend, I think.
Our forces are under attack.
I think. Backs up into his base. And sees focus going down probably to creep the rest of that camp. Now let's note, Happy needs to be passive now because he's not tier 3 yet. He knows focus is being aggro on him, but luckily he has this nice ward, so he's going to just get as passive of a camp as he possibly can. Similar to when he crept that one trapper to get level 3 on the Death Knight. Exactly the same as we saw in Tidehunters. This is essentially the most passive camp that Happy could be creeping at this stage. And he's got a scout in the meantime to help him. Oops. And then Happy's again gonna do something super sick here. He's gonna do something super sick. So he sees the army, he sees he's creeping this camp with this ward. Happy knows he can't fight, he knows he can't creep Jack. He knows there's a potential for focus to creep this and then just to run into his base. But Happy says, whatever. I have a little bit of time. If I have to TP, I have to TP. I don't care. I'm gonna run cross map and just take this item again, and then just TP if I have to. Because Happy can't fight yet, he's got to wait for the Lich and the Orb. So he's just running, and he's just getting as much as he possibly can. He even grabs this item along the way. Why not? And see, he even sees focus, like, running across to maybe either creep this or to creep jack him. Because he doesn't know, for instance, like, the ward for focus could be right here, just like it is for Happy. But he doesn't care. He says, whatever, I'm going to run here. If I have to TP, I have to TP. I know I can't win a fight, but I certainly know I can at least creep this camp. And he gets it, he gets Khadgars. He's got triple aura now. And then he just TPs out right away. Why not, right? So sick. And now he's lost a single fiend, but he's avoided completely the power spikes of focus. He avoided the Shadowhunter timing by just running away from the red camp, and he lost a fiend, but he could have TP'd again. And now he's avoided the tier 3 timing, as we see the Berserkers pop, the TCs here, the Kodos on the way, or Ensnare on the way, rather. I see, he went for a different order of things. He's avoided the tier 3 timing by pulling focus all the way over here, getting the item, and then TPing all the way back here. And now his Lich is about to be out, and then he's actually in a decent position. Pretty cool, right? So Happy not only gained value, but also avoided the power spikes of focus. Super, super dope. Super dope. And this isn't a game that you can necessarily copy, and it's going to work for you 100% of the time, but it's just very well played by Happy. Very well played. And now Happy's actually strong enough to fight. He's got his Lich, he's got his Orb, he got level 3 Dark Ranger. Do auras work if you get Hex? They do not, actually. They do not. They also don't work if you are invisible for the units around you. Wait a second. I might be wrong. Am I wrong? Maybe they do work when you're hexed. I don't know. Somebody can correct me. Him keeping the TP there was huge. Yeah, so overall, losing the Fiend here and not TPing initially from here was really good in hindsight. Absolutely. And now we're in the stage where Happy wants to take a fight, but what does he do always before taking these tier 3 fights? Make sure he has lots of skeletons. He's got 4 already. This is going to be number 5. And Focus made the same mistake he made on Tidehunters. Tiny Great Hall, greedily. And Happy's going to punish it yet again.
Research complete.
Look how many skeletons he has, though. And look, he could push in, and this Kodo's out of position. Maybe he could push in and kill the Kodo. But what does Happy want to do? He wants even more skeletons. He's got plenty of mana on the Dark Ranger. He's just going to get more skeletons before he pushes. Look, there's 2 more. Breaks upkeep. 3 more. And these skeletons, like, if none of these were here, there's 8 of them. If these 8 skeletons weren't here, Focus could win this fight. He's got a greater mana, greater heal. He's got another greater mana. Level 3/3. The TC is almost level 2. He could definitely hold this, hold the tiny, win the game off the tiny. But because Happy has, he got one skelly here, a skelly from a peon, and then 3 more from this camp. Because he got all these preemptively, these are gonna single-handedly win the game for him. Look at this. What's up, Victor? Look how sick this is. Look at this. Oh, look, another skeleton. Incredible. And the game's just over. You could definitely say that Focus should not have tinied right here. This is a mistake. But still. Look at these skellies. He's still killing them. SH dead. And at last, all the skeletons are dead. Oh, but what do you know? 2 more. That's just how strong the Dark Ranger is. And that's why we said earlier, G2's called. That's why we said earlier, Dark Ranger is probably better than Lich. Probably better than Lich in this matchup. I mean, it has the advantage of coming out earlier, and then you can pressure before the Shadowhunter or Torrent Chieftain comes out. We've already established that. But just as a hero against a hero, Dark Ranger probably better than Lich. Yeah, TC died with the health pot, for sure, for sure. I think even if the TC lives, Happy still wins off that push. Super sick, right? Super sick. So very well played. There was a reason why I showed that replay third, because it was definitely less instructive than the last 2 replays. But still the same general ideas of when Happy decides to be aggressive, when he decides to be passive, where he takes fights, how he takes fights, they all remain the same. Maybe if he would have had some time for Spirit Walkers, I think that definitely is an adjustment Focus could have made. Spirit Link spreads out spell damage and physical damage. Yes, it spreads both. So it does spread Coil Nova damage. Half of it. I do think Spirit Walkers would be a good play for Focus, though. Tupac. Okay. Last replay. This is going to be a replay where Happy loses. Bum, 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 bum. Now, well, Victor, what do you think? Do you think they're bad? I think they're good. I think it's more so a timing thing why orcs don't get them. Don't you think? Or do you think they're just, if you have all the time in the world, they're just objectively bad against undead, Victor? Is that your opinion? So if you can get up to 80 supply, you're on 2 bases, you don't get walkers with Farseer Head Harness. Is that what you're saying, Victor? Speak up. Speak up. What do you get then? What do you get above like 60 supply? You just keep building Berserkers? I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Takes too long? I'm saying if you have the time. If you have the time to get them, would you get them? Or would you get something else instead? You tiny and you win or you lose. Fair. Fair, fair, fair. We're now going to watch a replay where Focus doesn't tiny and he wins the game. Here we go. Replay number 4. This was actually game 1 in the series. Here we go. Here's Focus, but we're talking about Happy. Now, I think Amazonia is a really good orc map. I might be wrong, but watching the single replay, the single replay sample size has led me to believe that I think it's actually pretty good for orc. But I'll let you guys decide. I'll let you guys decide. So it's going to be all the same stuff from Happy. Exactly the same. Exactly the same. Spirit Walker seem like the answer to me. See, Ark agrees. Hitman. Yeah, Hitman is retired. He hasn't played in like 5 days. Thank you, Ark. Thank you for the support. Do I know anyone that don't play this game? Yes.
Summoning is complete. The damned stand ready.
So I'm trying to remember what the Nerubian timing was for Happy this game. He's, of course, the opening creep route's going to be... He's going to Lightning Shield creep with a Ghoul and the Acolyte. Now, you could always assume going into this map that your opponent is also going to Lightning Shield creep, but focus could also be straight harassing still, so that's something we have to keep in mind. And similar to what happened in Autumn Leaves, this Acolyte is not going to be able to scout right away. So I would assume, knowing what we know, knowing what I've been saying, that we would see a Nerubian before the attack, but in fact I don't actually remember. So we'll find out together. We'll find out together.
Complete.
Doop 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 doop. And once we, like, a lot's gonna happen on off this opening creep, like this opening couple of creep camps. I'm interested what you guys think, because I watched this replay a bunch. I watched this a whole bunch, and I still didn't really get it. I'm still confused now about this replay, but it's okay, because it's our last replay, so it's alright if we end on a confusing note. Because what would this game be if not confusing? So, you know, let's see what we can gain. But, you know, it is very, very strange. There are some things that are clear cut and dry in this replay, but there's other things that are like, what the hell's going on?
The pact is sealed.
Okay, Lightning Shield creep. Boom, boom. Okay, good. And he gets the Nerubian because he's not scouting. Right? Just like Autumn Leaves, remember? He gets it because he doesn't know if the Farseer creeping or is he immediately harassing me. So he doesn't get it after the tech, he gets it before the tech. So Happy's actually been consistent with the Nerubian timing on all 4 of these games. Very cool, very cool. I quit the game because I didn't have the elf like 8 months ago. Heary, heary. I would imagine the Acolyte will go cross and start scouting after he creeps this. Maybe he'll creep with it still.
Summoning is complete.
So at this stage, we pretty much assume they're Lightning Shield creeping. Whether it be a Blade Master or a Farseer, because our Acolyte hasn't gone across and either stopped a Blade Master Lightning Shield creep, or we are assuming it's a Farseer, we're just assuming they've Lightning Shield crept, right? That's what we're guessing at this stage if we're happy. That is the safest guess. Because any other creep route, if they're creeping this with a blade or something, we're totally fine with that. So we're assuming the worst, which would be a Lightning Shield creep, which would put us at level 2 versus level 2. You with me so far? We bring this all the way back to the intro, please. You just get here. So, question for you guys now. Question for you guys. And similar to the question I asked on Autumn Leaves, where I was like, should Happy push into the main base or should he go creep the red or whatever? What is the best play there? I think this is pretty... Yeah, I accidentally zoomed in. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't mention it. Don't worry about it. Out of sight, out of mind. Although it is within sight. What is the best play for Happy right here? So we've already established, we've assumed Focus has crept this and crept this. Now we're assuming that he's got 2 to 3 Headhunters. I'm not sure what the number would be right now. And he's going to probably creep this, right? Most likely. Creep the orange in front of his base. So the best play you think would be to creep this? Yeah, there's 2 plays. There's 2 plays. And I don't know what is better. I only know in hindsight what the result of this game was. Hitman would have won this easily. Victor, maybe you know. Maybe you know. Because I think the best play for Happy would have been, this is absolutely 100% with hindsight, right? Totally with hindsight. After seeing the game. I think creepjacking the orc right here is better, but maybe there's something that deters Happy from actually going for this creepjack. Because Happy's going to creep this. It works out horribly. It works out absolutely terribly. Creep red golem with solo DK. That's the sort of knowledge that... I won't say it. I'm not going to say it. It's too low-hanging fruit. It's too low. So, you know, he's going to go for this. It's going to end up kind of bad. But I don't know. I don't know. Leave it up to you guys. Leave it up to you guys. At the same time, just so you guys know, he's creeping this. And he's about this far away. So maybe Happy could show up. Maybe he'd be able to coil steal this. Of course, it's chain lightning. Let's keep that in mind. But he could definitely stop focus from creeping these two guys that are left over. Right? Because look, damage, damage. Shop, not up yet. All that stuff, you know? So, I don't know. Yeah, he loves 120 and Happy love creeping with their 6th Acolyte. They love it. They love it. See, and now Happy takes 1 creep. Keeping in mind, this is a replay where this Happy loses this game, by the way, right? Which is why we're talking about this. He gets 1 creep. The Farseer comes across. Now the Farseer is threatening to chain lightning steal these creeps if Happy commits to them. Right? If Happy goes for this tunneler, there could be a chain lightning. If Happy goes for this, it could be a chain lightning. Chain lightning is not quite instant cast, but quicker than a coil. And in the meantime, he's creeping this with a headhunter and a grunt. Right? Whoa, spoilers. So Focus is going to get his whole Cobalt. And Happy can't really go for his now. But Focus, I'm pretty sure, crept this whole thing. Yeah, he crept this whole thing. His experience, almost level 3. Happy's experience, halfway to level 3. If Focus is able to get this Taskmaster, he is level 3. Even if Happy gets it, I don't think he's level 3. It's 100 experience, right? I don't think he's level 3. No, he wouldn't be. This is... Yeah, no, this wouldn't be level 3. It wouldn't be, it wouldn't be, it would be. That's not how this works. Yeah, he'd be 50 experience off. Which is why I just think this, either this map, if you can't stop the Orc from creeping this, but you also, seeing right now what we're seeing, you can't creep this yourself, seems pretty bad for Happy. Seems pretty bad. But again, I don't really know. I don't really know. That was a question I had watching this. He's going to get a headhunter, though, or at least close to one. Kind of coils a little too early. Looking for that, but see, a little unfortunate yet again. A couple of things are unfortunate.
Our forces are under attack.
So now the Farseer is going to be level 3 and our DK is going to be stuck on level 2. This skeleton's super nice from Happy, though. So he's going to find that Headhunter, which is dope. Focus gets that without having to use a Chain Lightning. So 1 Headhunter, but now Focus is up a level.
The sleeper awakes.
Let's see. Probably went for this creep because he was expecting Focus to open straight Headhunter and not with a Grunt. But would Focus have not crapped if he opened straight Headhunters? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, right? The reason he opens a Grunt, obviously, is so that he can Lightning Shield creep this right away and not be 1 HP on his Farseer. But the alternative to not opening Grunt and creeping this would be for Focus to straight harass. In which case, Happy would have been aware that he was being harassed because he would have seen the Farseer. So the fact that he didn't get harassed by the Farseer would mean that he opened with this. Am I wrong? Extremely rare to see this build versus Undead. He would have had more time to actually finish the Cobalt. Okay, there might be some more stuff going on than I'm seeing. Though you can creep with straight header. Oh, okay. So the timing is just messed up because of this Grunt opener from Focus. Interesting. Okay, very cool. Very cool. Oh, I see. You do the green first in the lab. That makes sense. I see. Okay, very cool. Very cool. So this is Focus kind of getting like a build order win in a way. Half HP on FS. Okay. Yeah, so Focus kind of gets the upper hand just build order wise. And this was the first game of the series. So one ghoul's now fallen, which one headhunter is also fallen, but you could argue the ghoul has more impact because, of course, it's like losing a third of your lumber income and losing fiend production. Fiends take longer to produce than headhunters, so I think overall the ghoul loss is more impactful than the headhunter loss. Focus is definitely going to overcommit here, which is this right here is what makes this game so confusing, is the losses Focus is about to take. Death Knight's very low. Death Knight's going to be forced into a potion. Second headhunter is going to fall, though. So he's forced into a potion. So a potion and a ghoul so far for 2 headhunters and a grunt. Three headhunters and a grunt. Happy not able to get to the tavern, of course, so he's going Lich this game instead of the Dark Ranger, just because he's simply being pressured so much that he's actually not able to get to the tavern, right? But still, you would say, if we were to pause right now and say, who's ahead in this game? You would just for sure say Happy, right? 3 headhunters, a grunt. Was it 4 headhunters and a grunt? Let me check my notes. I think it was 4 headhunters and a grunt. And Happy's lost a ghoul and forced into a potion. Wait, 3 headhunters and a grunt? Would you not say Happy's just no lumber for tier 3? Happy's tier 3 actually isn't that late this game. It ends up, his tier 3 ends up only being like 10 seconds late or something. Because he still always goes Slaughterhouse, Ziggurat, first statue, 4th fiend before attacking. Yeah, if you got DR instead of Lich second, it might have made a difference. So maybe at the end of the day, this Lich is just... Because we have been talking the whole day about just how good Dark Ranger is compared to Lich. Is it really that big of a difference? Oh, overlay screwed me? Yeah, the overlay's backwards all day, unfortunately. Yeah, the heroes are on this side and the resources on this side. I don't know why. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Whereas Focus, of course, is going straight tier 3. Focus has done, worth noting, the same build order every single game as well. Exactly the same. Maybe sometimes he gets Raider instead of Kodo or Kodo instead of Raider. Other than that, exactly the same, right?
Our forces are under attack.
Of course, worth reiterating, the downside of Lich is now, as soon as this Lich is out, let's check the Shadowhunter timing. The Shadowhunter's out. Look at this. This is what I'm talking about, right? This is what I've been talking about the whole day. This is what happens, whereas if you're able to get a Dark Ranger, the Dark Ranger's already out this entire time creeping the map, right? So now as soon as your Lich is out, as soon as you want to be creeping that Lich, as soon as you want to be, you know, a little bit out on the map, the Shadowhunter's already out. And also, like Deuce said earlier, which also Wrath of Gods is saying as well right now, although typically Death Knight will have the advantage against Farseer if you're both level 3, if the Death Knight has no health and no mana, and the Farseer has health and mana, the Farseer is actually very much at the advantage in this fight. So despite Focus taking some losses, he's going to have a lot of map control for a long time now. 4 headhunters. Still, though, Death Knight, no mana, not a lot of health. Shadowhunter's now out, so as soon as Happy can get out of his base, the Shadowhunter's already here.
Complete.
That headhunter is not going to die, by the way.
Summoning is complete.
Yeah, so the tech ends up being like a little bit late. I think Happy would have teched maybe 20 seconds earlier, but... Yeah, DR might just generally be like, this might be one of the worst maps for DR overall as well.
Our forces are under attack.
Almost gets the Headhunter. Shadowhunter coming aggro. Happy sees it. You could say maybe Happy should have just... He's pulling this, of course, and there's, you know, there's only a few creeps left. The big boy's already gone, which he got the replenishment potion from, which I think he actually sold. Oh, no, he's using it right now. So you could say, like, at this stage in the other games, Happy backed off and crapped, as I've been putting it, the most passive camp possible, which is probably this camp, right? But he's going to pull this and try to creep it. Because he knows the Shadowhunters across and coming across the map right now.
Are under attack.
I think he's forced into a mana pot here. He's going to lose a Fiend now because he accidentally pulled this camp. I don't know if he would have lost a Fiend if he had crept this instead. Oh, he actually saves it for now. But yeah, if he had pulled this camp instead, maybe he doesn't lose that Fiend. If he is going to lose it. I don't know if he's going to lose it, actually, looking at it now. Probably not. Probably not. Still again, Death Knight forced into a mana pot. Death Knight, not a lot of coils left over. Farseer still has a lot of coils. Ooh, could he actually kill? That's not within threshold, no. Steal second, that would be an interesting take. Maybe one day, maybe one day. Who would have thought we would have ever seen Demon Hunter second, right? Maybe Cripplord second will be meta someday. All right, now this is interesting from Happy. He goes across the map. Now, what time is it right now, guys? What time is it? Of course, we already know the Shadowhunter's out. We have Hex. We've already established that. This is a decent creep jack, but what time are we approaching in game? It's 8 minutes and 11 seconds. What have we already established? Let's go forward a couple of seconds. Now, this is a decent creep jack from Happy, but he's sort of fighting into a soon-to-be Tier 3 Orc army with this. And he's fighting against Hex and a soon-to-be... Okay, there's a Tier 3. It actually just finished. Right, so now he gets a creep jack, yeah, but Focus hits Tier 3, gets Berserkers. His TC's probably almost out. Halfway. Kodo probably... Oh, not on the way, but still. Berserkers pop. He's got Hex still, plenty of mana. Happy's got one coil currently. He's soon to have a second coil. He's sort of fighting into Focus's timing here. When he's, of course, waiting for... He's still waiting for Tier 3. He's waiting for Orb. He's waiting for his third hero. So he's fighting into Focus's timing because he, for some reason, wanted to be very aggressive. Whereas maybe... Speed Scroll Force Orc economy in shambles, absolutely. Whereas maybe the better play would have been for him to just creep this right away. Which again is a risk because he could still get creep jacked, but if he sends a scout earlier, which he had skeletons available, he could scout Focus his creeping this, then pull his expansion and get it for free. After the expansion's dead or expansion's done, he can get his Lich and get his Dark Ranger and get his Orb, and he'll be fine. But here he goes aggressive because he wants to go for the creep jack, but I think this is kind of a bad fight for Happy. Maybe a little bit of an anti-timing. Actually, Focus could have saved this Kodo. I thought that during the game, too. He definitely could have saved that Kodo. It's like 3 times over. One coil left for Happy.
Summoning is complete.
Could have Impale now, absolutely. TC comes out. Worth noting, Focus has also only bought 1 Speed Scroll and 1 Salve this entire game.
Upgrade complete.
So it's an even trade for Happy at the end of the day. I think he gets a Kodo for like a Fiend. He's going to lose a second Fiend here. But he's completely out of mana yet again. Completely out of mana yet again. Kills the Shadowhunter. Level 1 Shadowhunter, though. Totally right now. And Focus backs off to creep. And now Happy's sort of in a position where, like, what, is he going to creep his green camp? Is he going to run up and creep jack again? He definitely can't run up and creep jack again. The Shadowhunter is going to be back, like, look how close it is to being back already. By the time Happy runs up and goes for another fight again, Shadowhunter is already going to be here. So Happy can't really run up. If he creeps this, Focus is going to creep these 2 camps. So Happy's only real option right now is to go and try to creep his Expo, which he could have done earlier, but now he's doing it much later on, and it's much more, maybe not telegraphed, but it's much more easily punishable. Gets Orb, gets Dark Ranger, or is on the way to get Dark Ranger. And this is normally, in the other games, this is where Happy was strongest, was at this stage. Because he had 5 Fiends, he had full mana. Remember, he always had a mana pot, Potion of Vulnerability, he would pull 2 Ghouls, and he would go aggro onto the map. But at this stage, he's only got 3 Fiends. Both his statues are hurt. He's got 1 Coil, no mana pot, no Potion of Vulnerability. His Dark Ranger's level 1. A lot of things not going Happy's way. Despite him getting a lot of kills in the early game, he's very much not at his strength right now when he should be. I think he actually gets greater mana here, though, so that's going to help. A lot of things tend to go Happy's way item-wise. Yeah, he does get a greater mana. And now he gets creep jacked again because this creep was extremely telegraphed. Fiend dies, statue dies, and what do you know, now Focus is in a position where he could probably creep this as well.
The sleeper awakes.
One thing Happy should be doing right now is probably scouting for an expansion. Let's see. Should he be? Not yet. But I think he could be at this stage. Who knows? How cool it'd be if you could kill critters with a Dark Ranger and get a skeleton from it. He pulls the ghouls like he has in the past, but right now he's doing it just to try to survive, honestly. Not cool. Human player here. Yeah. Now, we probably can assume that he's crept this, and then there are some creep camps left for Focus, but he's actually just going to run cross-map again. Because why wouldn't he be aggressive? He's got a much better army. Would have only made a baby Skelly? Yeah, like a level 0.5 Skelly.
Our forces are under attack.
And it's kind of difficult to get in this sort of a position on other maps, like on a Last Refuge, on a Northern Isles, even on like a Concealed Hill, on like a, probably on Tidehunters is what happened, but where you literally can't go to a single camp without the orc being on top of you, doesn't happen on too many other maps. Like it would happen on Echo Isles, it happens on Amazonia, but this is sort of only because it's AZ that he's able to be consistently creepjacked like this. And now Happy finally has a decent Fiend count. He's finally got mana. But Focus is a really strong army. 56 supply. The supplies are... This is obviously Focus's supply. 56 against 42 right now. And the TC has level 2. That's something that Focus did not have the last 2 games. On Turtle Rock and Tidehunters, the Focus was forced to fight on level 1 Tauren Chieftain, so he didn't have Stomp. He only had Aura. Worth remembering, though, the longer the fights go, the better it is for the undead. So if we can extend this, there's a world in which we could actually trade favorably, but there is a lot of supply for Focus. A whole lot of supply. And Happy actually forces Focus away because the Shadowrunner's low on mana. He doesn't have a Potion of Vulnerability. He has no real way to save his heroes if there's another Coil Nova, which there is another Coil Nova. So he actually has to back away Focus, not because he couldn't continue to trade, but because he'd probably lose a hero. Yeah. So again, Happy does Happy things. Still need to be aware there's potentially an expansion that could be coming up. But Happy's really just had no room to breathe so far. This all comes down to him taking one kind of bad fight, forcing, you know, losing a couple fiends, having to TP out, and then getting creep jacked, and it just all snowballs from there. It's all about being strong when you're supposed to be. Kills Shadowrunner again. Buddy's losing 2 fiends. He gets 1 eaten. Loses a statue. Loses another fiend. Oh, there's the first destroyer we've seen today. There we go. There it is. TP's out. Loses the destroyer as well. Really nice fight from Focus despite losing that Shadowrunner. .50 supply against 37. Like, there were stages in this game Happy could have actually just won based off winning a fight somehow, but he is happy. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, right? That was a pretty... I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he did it. Up till that, like, last exchange at the red camp, Happy was trading favorably, and then somehow that happens. Now level 3 on the Dark Ranger. And he got... What did he get? Oh, he hasn't picked it up yet. Not a really good item, but... Yeah, this is Happy's supply, by the way. His War 3 booster is backwards. This is kind of cool. He sees the Farseer get level 5, and I don't know when he's going to do it exactly. This is also worth noting, this is the first game Happy's built a Destroyer, also the first game that Happy's built an Abomination. There's a lot of different things Happy did this game. He got a Lich second, he built an Abomination, he morphed a Destroyer earlier, and he sort of fought at anti-timings. This is the first game in a 5-game series. This is the only game Happy's done any of those things I just listed. Every other game that he won and played in this series, he didn't do any of those things. No Abomination, no Destroyer, no Lich second, and no fighting at that 8-minute timing that we saw Happy fight up here earlier. He didn't do any of those things after this game. Make what you will of that. When does he... Oh, I'll point it out when I see it. One thing Happy hasn't been doing a lot either, he hasn't been scouting for an expansion a lot either. Which, if he had, he wouldn't have seen one up until this point, but he might be seeing one, like he would see this tower, for instance. But he hasn't been scouting a ton for expansions. Or really just in general. Like, he had the Kodo earlier, which he was able to see, but he got Creepjack, for instance. When he got Creepjack at this expansion, after he had to TP out from here earlier, he didn't have a skeleton, which he's so often had in this series, like up here, for instance, getting ready for the Creepjack. That's another thing Happy missed in this game.
Our town is under attack.
Why never Abominations versus Headhunters, though? That's weird. Well, I mean, honestly, heavy armor, not that great. Weirdly, not that great against piercing. And Abominations do, like, good damage to Headhunters. They're also a good frontline tank, but really... they need to get in a good position to do damage. So, like, Disease Cloud would be nice for Abominations if you can get there. But, like, you need to be pumping statues because you're losing into, like, Ensnare, Focus Fire, and also you need constant statues. If you don't have statues in the fight, you cannot win the fight. So you really need... you can't be taking up time on your Slaughterhouse with getting Disease Cloud and Abominations and all that stuff because you constantly need to have at least 2 statues. If you only have 1, it's not good enough. And Abomination really, despite what its like attack and armor type is, it's not actually that good. Because by the time it gets into position to start actually attacking Berserkers, it's already half health. Which serves its purpose as a tank, but, you know.
Our town is under attack.
It'd almost be better if it had like medium armor. Like a Mount Giant. In this situation. Does he do it yet? He hasn't done it yet. Okay. Level 3 wolves are insane. Worth noting. But again, remember, the longer the fight goes, the better it can be for us. We've still got our statues up. We've still got alright mana on our heroes, but the Torn Chieftain's still full mana. And that's a big stomp. Yeah, once he has enough resources, sure, I could see him get an Abomination. But, like, how much value has this bad boy really gotten so far? It's just been running around, kind of. Happy's trying. He's trying. He's killing some units here and there, but he's been playing from behind ever since this fight earlier, right? Okay, now he's doing it. Yeah, so he's getting a Sacrificial Pit, which is, I don't know if that's something Happy does every time. This is certainly the only time he did it in this entire series. Yeah, he miscoiled the Skelly. Yeah, that was an error. There were some errors throughout the entire series for Happy, actually. Remember the Mana Stone misclick on Autumn Leaves. He got the Sacrificial Pit because of the level 5 Farseer, level 3 Wolves. This was the only game, I believe, Focus actually got level 5 Farseer in, so I don't know if Happy does this always when Farseer reaches level 5, or if he just did that this game, but just worth noting, when the Farseer got level 5, he got a Sacrificial Pit, just to stop the harass on his Akos. There should be an expansion coming up now. Not even yet. So Focus wins this game really one base.
The damned stand ready. Summoning is complete.
Yeah, now he's getting a Shade. No longer trying to go into Abominations, just trying to get that Fiend and stat count up.
The damned return.
Now he's got a Shade. I'm wondering, does he leave the Shade in his base? Seems like he will. Just to deal with these. Still not scouting for an expansion. That's probably what the Shade was going to do before the Wolf showed up in his base. He definitely has in the back of his mind right now, there could be an expansion, Like, this would be, like, Focus probably should just Tiny right now. Does he have a Tiny? Not yet, but he's got enough gold to get it. This is his gold, 700, so he's probably, yeah, he's definitely going to buy a Tiny right now, which he should. He's very ahead.
The sleeper awakes.
But we see just how close Happy is able to make it, despite making some big mistakes. And losing, like, it seems like he's 3 times over lost his entire army almost, and somehow managed to keep up supply-wise. Like, it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy what he's able to do.
The sleeper awakes.
Shade sees the Expo, and Happy's now sort of in a spot where he's like, I kind of need to push. Worth noting also, Berserkers with 3-0 attack upgrades, they actually do more damage than Fiends. So this is, despite the supply being close to even, the upgrades and the hero levels make quite a big difference. Right? Quite a big difference. Just look at the difference there. 2 supply unit, 3 supply unit, 3 attack upgrades on Berserkers is so strong. So strong. Unsummons the altar. It's a classic Happy move. He loves doing that when he's going for one big final push. And Focus breaks upkeep. This is Focus's supply. Happy breaks upkeep. But yeah, if you just think about it, because they're 3 attack upgrades, each of these are actually more valuable than a Fiend. They have a little less health, obviously, but they all actually do more damage than these Fiends. So, like, it's actually a huge difference. Despite the supply being so equal, like, you know, Happy's got 4 Fiends, and these already do as much damage. Especially with +7 on them too, they do a shitload of damage. And this will be the last fight of this episode. Let me see just how much damage they do. And more fiends fall. Not much left over at all. And Happy could try to go again, but the supply is only growing because, of course, this entire time, even if Focus was losing units, he still has the tiny Great Hall. It's his win condition at this stage, so Happy has to keep attacking. Similar to when you're playing against a Night Elf with an expansion, you have to just keep going. That's what Happy's forced to do. Pretty strong. And like Hero Focus is a good play here, but there's a shop that's still pushing him vulnerability. He got Ruined Bracers, and GG is called. So make what you will of that replay. Like I said, I had to watch that replay a bunch of times over. I was a little bit confused by it because it seemed like the early game was honestly, well, the initial creeping went Focus's way, and I was confused as to how Happy should counter that on Amazonia. And then Focus loses quite a few units. He loses a Grunt and 4 Headhunters, and only kills a Ghoul. And then Happy pushes aggressive on the map at a really bad timing, is forced to TP out, loses 2 Fiends. Then he gets creepjacked because he has a bit of lazy scouting, loses a statue and another Fiend, and then Focus just snowballs. But then Happy always seems like he's really close to coming back, so that game was definitely the most confusing of the bunch we've watched today, but I definitely think Autumn Leaves and Tidehunters, the first 2 replays, very instructive. Rock a little weirder, and Amazonia very weird, but that's that, guys. That's that. Longer episode, 3 or so hours, almost 3.5. Oh, let me allow that. Sorry for that. Can you please explain the logic of map picking? Happy don't pick first because he's higher ELO with more tourney wins. After that, which is the loser map pick, is played. Yeah, I'm not sure how War 3 Champions did it exactly because they had an 11 map pool. They had like so many maps. Normally the map pool is 7. So normally there's 7 maps, and what you do is, this is at least typically what Dust League does at least. So you have 7 maps in total. And then the higher seeded player, the seeding in this tournament was based on the actual rank of the players on the ladder, which Happy's rank number 1. So Happy would have been the higher seed. So let's say he gets A. So you go A, B, vetoes. Right? So each player gets rid of 1 map, which would leave 7 maps, or which would take 7 maps down to 5. Right? So there's 5 maps left. And then after that, you go A, B, B, A, loser maps after that. Let me do a little arrow here. And what that means is player A picks the first map he'll go to if he loses. Then player B picks the first and second map that he'll go to if he loses 1 and then 2 games. And then player A picks the second map he'll go to if he loses. The remaining map that has not been picked as one of those loser maps will be the first map played. That's generally how vetoes are done. I think that's the best way to do vetoes in a lot of cases. War 3 Champions, I think, did it differently, though. I don't know how they did it. Thanks, Warheart. I think Happy didn't have map pick because he came from loser's bracket. That might be right. Yeah, Happy did come from loser's bracket for this tournament, so that could be right. That could be right. Focus opening with Grunt is really strong on AZ. Yeah, I'm wondering if there's like a counter. Maybe for that reason, Happy should have scouted with the Acolyte as opposed to creeping with the Acolyte, but then it makes his Lightning Shield a lot weaker. I don't know. I don't know what the best counter for that opening from Focus is, but that was kind of cool. I didn't know that was such a weird thing from Focus until Hitman said it. Anything else? Anything else? Anything else? There's probably a lot in this episode. Like I said, undead definitely not my strongest race. And I do struggle to try to understand what the hell's going on when analyzing undead games. But I definitely learned something. Hope you guys learned something. And what's cool about this is a lot of the time the replays I'm doing on these shows is like, they're like a month and a half old, maybe 2 months old at times, because that's how far you have to go back to get just replays that work. But this was played like in the last 5 days, so this is really the peak of the meta currently. This is it. This is it. I think it's Creepjack on the Cobalt. Yeah, since he has no shop yet. I would definitely agree with that. Definitely agree with that. Yeah, so next week will be human. What days? What's the date next week? What's the date? It'll be on the 2nd, September 2nd. We will have Human Day. Still don't know what we're going to do for that, but we will find something. How often do you play on War 3 Champions? Not too often. I play 4v4 on occasion. Sometimes I play 2v2 with friends. Don't play 1v1 too often, though. Don't play 1v1 too often. Maybe I'll get back into it soon. If I do get back into playing 1v1, I'll probably stream it on my own channel. Yeah, if I do start laddering a bunch, I'll make sure to stream it. I'll make sure so you guys can all watch me get really mad and lose a bunch of games, and you can all be like, why the hell did we watch this guy do analysis on replays? He's terrible. All that fun stuff, right? Bidu style, yeah. Smash the mouse. Smash the mouse. Of course, shout out to the sponsor of the stream, CORSAIR. You can do ! CORSAIR in the chat. You can use the coupon code BACK2WARCRAFT, the name of the channel, for 10% off at checkout. They also have weekly, monthly deals where you can get up to 40% off. You combine the two codes and get up to 50% off. Cool things like this headset, the keyboard I'm using, the mouse I'm using. Lots of different stuff. They even have computer parts. They have RAM. They have heat sinks. I've used those before. Plenty of things. ! CORSAIR in the chat. Support the people that support us. And, of course, a shout-out to our patrons. More people that support us. ! Patreon to check all that out. The 500 Euro Golden Goat patron, as always, Kenobi Quakes, thank you so much. The 50 Euro Midas tier patrons, Toxie, Grinchy, JGats123, and Padroot, Save Orcas, Scription, and Teggy. And our 25 Euro Profit tier patrons, Mr. Armin VB, Burning Blades, Dondalare, and KMS3D. Thank you guys, thank you guys, thank you guys, thank you guys, and thank you guys for watching. I know it was a longer episode. I know at times maybe it dragged on, but it was a long series. It was like a 2-hour long series, an hour and a half long series, without all the pauses. So, super dope, super dope. What's generally better advice for lower level undeads? Defend the harass and creep, then tech like happy to orb plus attack if enemy expand. Yeah, I would say the most passive approach is probably best. Because a lot of the time, at the lower levels, I don't know what your MMR is, but let's say you're like 1500, 1600 MMR. At the lower levels, you're going to be playing against orc players that are way over aggressive. So by you playing passive as the undead, the orc is just going to give you kills. Just like Focus did in that last game, that's going to be orcs against you every single game. So be as passive as you possibly can, within reason. You should know why you're being passive and know when you can actually be aggressive. For instance, if they're going Tauren Chieftain second, absolutely be aggressive on them. But if you play more or less passive against lower level opponents, especially orc players playing Farseer Headhunters, they're gonna gift you kills. They're gonna push into you brainlessly all the time. And I'm saying this as an orc player. I do that as well. So I think that's the best approach to take, depending on your MMR. When you get up to higher, like if you say get up to 1800, 1900 MMR, then you have to more be thinking about in terms of push and pull and power spikes and, you know, what is he potentially creeping, when is the Shadow Hunter coming out, when's his tier 3 timing hitting, stuff like that. But below that, definitely they're going to be gifting you free wins. All right, thank you guys. I will be back tomorrow with the, what is it called, 4 players? They changed the name. They changed the name of the tournament. Yeah, 4 players Gold Cup, which is previously known as Skill Gold Cup, which I think doesn't have an ELO cap anymore. So we might actually see Happy in that cup tomorrow. So I'll be back with that. And then we got more Yule Cup on Saturday, and GNL end of season tournament will also be casted by me on Saturday. So plenty more Warcraft through the weekend. But for now, enjoy your guys' Thursday, and maybe I'll see you on ladder. Goodbye.